And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Friday, finally, September 16th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are brought to you by BetMGM. We'll be talking about them in a little bit, and you guys are going to need to pay attention to that one because I'm going to make sure that I give you guys the right words instead of what I think I did last time, which was the wrong deal. But that's neither here nor there. Before we get started, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how you doing? How was yesterday in DFS? I haven't talked to you yet today.
Football went pretty well. I 2x'd actual money, and I got a ticket to the 3K Millie on Sunday. Baseball was absolute garbage. Lost head-to-heads. Won like almost every head-to-head. Lost my highest stake head-to-head. Got crushed in tournaments because even though I didn't like the Padres, I still ended up with a lot of the Padres.
They scored 0 runs, correct?
Yeah.
Mets were the stack. Am I right?
I don't think there really was. I mean, I guess, but nobody was actually good. Going into the late game, it was just like the Padres were in a good spot to win the slate, but also It was one of those. It's I think I've mentioned it before. Like, it doesn't happen too often, but it's always like especially frustrating losing those slates where like I disagree with projections, but like I'm also not going to just like manually change them. So I play them and then just get my ass kicked with what I thought was going to happen anyway. But so that just made it extra frustrating. But football pretty much made most of it back.
There we go. Football, nothing great for me. Although I thought I would have done better once I started to see like who had the fantasy points. Other than Mike Williams, I was like pretty solid on everybody else of value from the game. Didn't work out. Baseball was nothing. So I was happy to see Thursday just simply go away. Who scored the second touchdown in the game last night? It was like the generic backup fullback or whatever first, and then some other random asshole scored the second one to me. And I was just like, okay, if this is what it's going to be right now, like I'm out.
Are you talking about Justin Watson?
Is that who it was?
The wide receiver for Kansas City?
I don't think he scored the second one. That was McKinnon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I was a little under the field on McKinnon. I had McKinnon in cash. But yeah, it was.
I had some McKinnon, but it was just like, I was just like, okay, this is just. I can't be watching these games where like nobody of value is like, what's McKinnon, the third running back? You know, like he was in there a little bit more frequently last night. Once did Edwards-Helaire come back?
Yeah,
I stopped watching the game then. Okay, because I knew
he came back.
Tramped
he had some
on
plays later in the game.
Okay, I had basically
I missed the
so
first half.
I wanted him to be gone.
I missed the first. Yeah, I didn't play much of him at all. I missed the first half because I was trying to swap as many Padres lineups as I could before their game locked, and then caught the second half.
Alrighty. Well, we got 14 games to get through. I'm just ready to dive in if you are. We got a lot to talk about.
This guy's caps lock button.
I will break him personally if it continues to be in caps. Let's break this slate down. Nats and Marlins. 3.8 run implied total for the Nats. 4.1 for the Marlins. Josiah Gray and Jesus Luzardo going in this one. This one's kind of crazy. 24% ownership to Josiah Gray, 7,600. On the opposite side, Luzardo 15% owned at 8,700. Feels like a lot for both of these guys, but it's not like either offense is good.
Yeah, I had said to you before the show, I think it's a really difficult slate to talk about because there's a lot of really similar options. And I think Josiah Gray looks good here. He's certainly got very good strikeout stuff. He struck out 25% of hitters this year. He has a good matchup against Miami. At the same time, he's really bad at limiting power, but his biggest issues are with left-handed power, which Miami doesn't have a lot of. You have J.J. Bleday in there. You have Joey Wendell, who's not really a power hitter. He's just left-handed. You have Lewin Diaz hitting ninth. And other than that, everybody in this lineup's right-handed. So while Gray hasn't been great at limiting right-handed power, 215 actual ISO to righties, but only a 166 expected ISO. It's been lefties that really have gotten to him with a 329 actual ISO and 269 expected ISO. Also a higher strikeout percentage against righties. So it sets up as a very high upside spot for him. And then on the other side, Luzardo's been the better pitcher of the two this year. 27.7% strikeout percentage is third highest on the slate. 3.53 xFIP. Solid enough matchup against the Nats, but there's still just a lot of mid-range pitchers that project similarly to these guys. So on the one hand, I understand why they're both getting considerable ownership. I think they look like good plays, but on the other hand, there's just a lot of guys that aren't getting ownership that project, within a point or two.
I actually don't understand the ownership on Gray. 9% odds of being the top pitcher, 12% at value. I have it slightly lower than that, but even if I use ours, 24% ownership is certainly too high in this spot. Luzardo seems about a little bit more correct, but I'm less interested in these guys and more interested in just finding out what's around them. And that's sort of where you were going. Like, I like Frankie Montas, $300 cheaper, more than Luzardo if he's 2x the ownership to Luzardo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason I say that I think the Gray ownership makes sense is from a medium projection standpoint, there's a lot of pitchers around them. I don't think most of them have the same sort of upside that he does. He's got the sixth highest strikeout percentage on the slate. He's facing a weak Miami team that's got a bunch of right-handed bats. I think you can certainly pivot to some of these lower owned guys, but if you start making Corey Kluber and Frankie Montas the same ownership as Josiah Gray, I'm just playing a lot of Josiah Gray.
Yeah, like I have Corey Kluber projected better than Josiah Gray for today. Obviously, Giolito, $200 more expensive than Gray. To me, looks like he's on a completely different level, and they are basically owned the same. We got Taijuan Walker pulling ownership at 8K, another guy that I think is kind of easy to get away from. I'd rather just get to you at 8,200, but we'll get to that. Pitching is just weird. I don't understand the ownership all that much.
Larry C said he needs to check Reddit for pitch counts. Were you here? Were you on the show? No, it was me and Emac.
This morning?
No, it was yesterday's Deeper Dive.
Okay, not me.
Somebody was upset that because they said before Dylan Peterson got lit up, or David Peterson got lit up a couple days ago, they said on the Mets broadcast that the plan was for him to go like 3 or 4 innings and then be followed by Trevor Williams. And somebody in chat was upset that projections didn't have that. And I pointed out that projections are typically done before the game starts. And he said that the information was known. It was in Mets Reddit. And I was like, it's not typically a place I go to find actionable information.
No, that's a bit of a stretch. All right, let's talk bats. 9th in top stack, 1st in top value. Let's just talk about both of these teams at the same time. The Marlins are number 1 in top value at 21%. The Nats are number 2 at 11%. Surprisingly, the Marlins are 9th in top stack. That's honestly kind of crazy, but at the same time, I have the same thing, so I guess it's not as crazy. It kind of just falls off a cliff. Do you like either one of these teams? Marlins are the ones that are getting the ownership. I have a little bit of both of them, and I don't like it, but it's probably because I have so much Verlander.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too interested in either team. I think the case for the Marlins is kind of the same case that I was just making for Josiah Gray. He's just such a volatile pitcher. He's either going to go out there and just mow these guys down, or he's going to give up a bunch of home runs. Miami, again, I like the way it sets up for Gray. He's been a lot better against righties than lefties, but JJ Bleday individually at 2,200, I really like. I like the price tag on Brian Anderson. You have a catcher hitting cleanup, which is nice. Joey Wendell and John Birdie both have MPE at the top of the order. So Jordan Groshans is a solid hitting prospect, 2K flat shortstop hitting 8th. So there are some bats that I think are reasonable in the Miami lineup. On the other side, I think I actually have a little bit more difficulty getting to the Nats. Luzardo is just a better pitcher than Gray. And then there's not a lot here that I would like either. I mean, Lane Thomas, Meneses, Voit are all fine. But I think if I get to one side, it's probably Miami for the power upside that Gray offers.
This is just a really weird game to me. Like, I'm a little surprised to see some ownership coming into the Marlins. Nothing's really coming into the Nats outside of Lane Thomas. We'll see how that changes as we move forward. I'm actually over the field on both of these teams hitting and not really getting to Gray or Luzardo at all. So that's not at all what I was expecting, but if I'm going to be getting a lot of the pay up options, I'm going to need to find some bats. So I'm just sort of avoiding Gray and Luzardo. That's the fade. And I'm picking up a little bit more of each offense because they're so cost efficient, hoping that at least one of these teams pops off. Doesn't feel fun though.
Yeah, same page. But yeah, and if you're going a lot of Verlander, then these two teams make more sense, obviously.
Yeah, and I am. We will get there. Anything else, Nats and Marlins?
Nope.
Blue Jays and Orioles. 5-run implied total for the Jays, 4.1 for your Orioles. Trevor Richards starting a bullpen game for Toronto. Jordan Lyles is going for Baltimore. Neither one of these guys is getting any ownership. I don't think you can play Richards. It's a bullpen game. He's just a complete zero. And then Jordan Lyles is just not good. So at 6,600 against the Blue Jays, I don't want him.
Yeah, I don't I mean, there's so much mid-range pitching upside on this slate. I don't think you need to get to Lyles. 17% strikeout percentage against righties this year, 19.3% against lefties. Obviously, a predominantly right-handed heavy lineup here. He's been better at limiting power to righties, as you would expect, but still a tough park shift for him going into Rogers Center, where the left field wall is not 380 plus feet away, and facing a lineup that just has a lot of really good hitters. And then obviously on the other side, you're not going to Richards. Kikuchi, I think, is expected to follow him. I don't see any reason to get to him either.
So let's talk Blue Jays bats here. 5th in ownership at 6.5%, 5th in top stack at 5.7%. I have them quite a bit higher than that. They are my number 2 overall stack for today. I think it's kind of crazy how close the Blue Jays and Marlins are in terms of top stack percentage, because they shouldn't be comparable at all. And that's really what's tripping me up here. I think the Blue Jays look exceptional. I say this on basically every single one of our shows, but this is a team that I think should be getting a little bit more ownership here today against Jordan Lyles. I love the implied total, which is the 2nd highest on the slate. I'm getting to Toronto.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I mentioned that Lyles has done a better job limiting power to righties this year. 134, 134 actual ISO, 164 expected ISO compared to 226 actual ISO and 202 expected ISO to lefties. So, on the one hand, if Toronto had a lineup full of left-handed hitters that hit just as well as Springer, Guerrero, Bichette, Hernandez, I would like them more. But I'm not going to just discount this offense because they have a bunch of extremely good right-handed hitters. I still think they have the advantage against Lyles. And then, as I said before, too, you don't have the 380-foot wall in left field. It's going to be a lot easier for right-handed power to play up here against Lyles than it is in his home starts. You do have a good bullpen behind them. That's kind of the one thing is, and I don't get too bogged down in bullpens. I don't even know how good most bullpens are. But I do know for sure with the Orioles, if Lyles gives you 6 innings, 3 runs, there's a good chance you're just not scoring after that.
Yeah. I mean, my goal is that they just beat up Lyles because he sucks. And then at that point, you're not getting their good bullpen arms anyway.
Right. And to my point, most teams have at least 2 or 3 competent bullpen arms where if you don't get to the starter, you're not going to score anyway. Most teams, if you've scored 2 or 3 runs through 6, it's unlikely you're just going to add on a lot at the end. But the Orioles are certainly one of those teams.
Simon, I've got 20% Blue Jays right now. That is going to be one of the bigger stands that I'll take today. And that works for me because Steamer projects Jordan Lyles with a 5 FIP on the dot and very low strikeout rate, which means if these guys are putting balls in play, I hope that 1 or 2 of them can not be in play and actually be just straight homers. What about your Orioles?
I want to specifically mention Kevin Biggio hitting 5th too. First base, second base, obviously not typically the main talking point when you're in a lineup with Springer, Guerrero, Bichette, and Hernandez ahead of you. But he is left-handed. He is cheap. He does have MPE. And as I said before, Lyles has been fine against righties this year. He's gotten just lit up by lefties.
Second most exposed Blue Jay right now, Kevin Biggio. So I like that take. For the Orioles, 13th in top stack, 19th in ownership, probably a little bit under-owned. And I know it's a bullpen game. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. Like, it's probably bad for me. I'm getting to your Orioles. I have 7% of them at this moment, 10% of my 5-man stacks. Give me some Baltimore here. I want the offense in this one.
Yeah, I think they're kind of interesting. If Kikuchi is going to be the long guy, that is obviously favorable. Of course, the plan is probably for him to go through the order once and then you just move on. But Toronto's got a relatively weak bullpen. I know that just from how often they play the Orioles and it mattering and me actually watching. So it's not a spot where I think the Orioles are particularly likely to come through, but I do just like how much upside they have in this lineup. And then they also balance it out with some pretty cheap bats. Mullins, Rutschman, Santander, obviously expensive at the top. Mountcastle, 4,100 looks good. But then after that, there's nobody above Gunnar Henderson or nobody above Mateo at 3,600. Henderson's at 35 with MPE. Urias has MPE. So they've actually become a lot easier to stack as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be more than okay with getting to your Orioles today. The dueling MPEs is fun. I'm getting to more Gunnar Henderson. I'm also not mad about that. But
Ryan Mountcastle does, in fact, light up the Blue Jays, but that isn't here or there. It has nothing to do with what's going to happen tonight.
Nope, absolutely zero. I mean, to think that how that you're going to hit better against a different team is such a dumb thing to say. The Blue Jays, him hitting well against the Blue Jays has nothing to do with the people that are How does that matter? There's just like a logo
Well,
on
also,
a jersey.
he also does it in Baltimore against Toronto. It's just a random thing. It's like if he just sees the ball well in Toronto, that's entirely possible. But it's
Yeah.
not like he only hits well in the Rogers Center. He also just tears up the Blue Jays in Baltimore. It's just a weird thing ever since he came up.
It's because he's good.
Well, no, I mean, no, he's freakishly good against Toronto,
Sure.
but
But
it
like,
doesn't have to do with Toronto.
no, not at all. He's just like a good player. And I'm quite confident in 3 years when he plays Toronto a little bit more, like it'll balance itself out.
Right.
Like life does.
Yeah, and also like hitting in Rogers Center is a good place to hit.
Yeah. It's oddly enough, it's fun. It's good to hit. Like when you are a right-handed hitter, there's a 107 park factor for righty power in the Rogers Center.
And
That'll
also,
work for me.
So to Sean V's point about Brandon Hyde saying he sees the ball well in Toronto, I didn't hear the quote and it wouldn't change it, but there's a very good chance that was also just a complete cliche where he was asked about Ryan Mountcastle's numbers against Toronto and he said he sees the ball well. Like that's baseball 101, how you answer that question.
Right. The manager has no idea how Ryan Mountcastle sees the ball anyway.
I mean, he could just be walking around the dugout just like,
I see everything.
I can see the stitches here.
Yeah. It's like, okay. You got a split-second decision. Anything else here, Blue Jays and Orioles?
No. So, I mean, I guess to recap, because obviously there was a lot of other stuff going on. Really do like Toronto here. Orioles, clearly lower probability, but I do like the upside they offer just because they're getting no ownership and there is a lot of power and speed here.
This one I think will move pretty quickly. Guardians and Twins, 4-run implied total for the Guardians, 3.4 for the Twins. Tristan McKenzie and Bailey Ober. No one is rostering Ober at 7,400. 11% of the people are rostering Tristan McKenzie at 9,600. You know me, the Tristan McKenzie whisperer. 2x the field on McKenzie. Come at me.
Yeah, so this is going to start a long line of me sounding like a broken record talking about pitching on this slate, because there's just a lot of pitchers that are like 10 to 15-ish% owned that I will be more than happy to get to. McKenzie's one of them. I think the way that I'll most likely end up using McKenzie here, because I don't think he's quite as strong an option as Robbie Ray. If you can get up to Verlander, then great. You have Fried, who I think is similar to McKenzie. I think McKenzie fits really well into lineups where maybe you're playing a semi-popular Toronto team or a semi-popular, or not even semi, a popular Boston team or something like that, because you're still getting a lot of upside from McKenzie. He has about a 25% strikeout percentage this year. It's not a great matchup. Minnesota is pretty difficult to strike out. They have above average hitters in their lineup, but you're still getting a high ceiling for McKenzie at just a bit of reduced ownership off of Verlander or Snell or Giolito. So I think he makes sense in lineups like that. And lineups where you have lower owned teams, like let's say the Orioles, for example, I'd rather just be getting to the better projected pitchers like Snell or Verlander at that point.
Okay. I think you should just go to McKenzie because he's awesome. You
already said you're playing all the Verlander. So if you're also playing all of the McKenzie, you're going to have a really tough rest of the show.
He's my third most exposed pitcher.
Yeah, but what's on this slate, that probably means like 15 to 20%, right?
23%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my point. Like, I think I'm going to have a lot of different pitchers on this slate.
I'm with you. I'm just touting McKenzie because
we're not just going to be jamming in Daniel Lynch tonight because we have nothing better to do.
You might. We're not going to talk
Kansas City.
I legitimately don't know.
I don't remember.
Heasley, Lorenzen. I'm just named
the one guy on Kansas. Him and Singer, the two guys from Kansas City. I don't get to. One because he's too good apparently, and one because he's just too bad.
I was just looking at names, thinking one of these names is probably a guy that pitches for the Royals because I didn't know the answer.
Did I mean to have that much Lynch last night? Sort of. I mean, like I knew it was happening, and I didn't have a problem with it. If you asked me if I wanted it, like no, but I mean, there was so much ownership coming into McCullers and Carrasco and to a lesser extent Michaelis that, just because of a lack of options, I was perfectly fine getting to Lynch and then getting some more expensive bets.
All righty. Is there anything we could talk about here from a bats perspective? Guardians are 13th in ownership. Twins are 11th. The only top 10 number that we get are Twins in value at 8th. I don't see anything here for offense.
From the Minnesota side?
From either side.
Yeah, mildly interested in the Cleveland side just because Ober has had some power issues going back to last year. He's been he's been injured / rehabbing since June. He is essentially fully stretched out here based on his minor league numbers. Since the start of last season, 216 expected ISO to righties, 193 to lefties. So I don't mind like 1 through 7 in the Cleveland lineup. Not any sort of a priority, but just a low-owned team that I think does have some upside here against a guy that hasn't pitched in the majors in a few months. On the other side, I think it's difficult to want to get to the Twins against McKenzie. He does have some power issues, but it is also a 14-game slate, and it's pretty tough to really want too much of anything. 202 expected ISO to righties is what really stands out from him. So, maybe Correa, Miranda. You do have Nick Gordon hitting cleanup. I mention him like every time he plays, but Correa, Miranda, Gordon as a 3-man makes some sense, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I just basically didn't get to these guys. There's just too many other options that I see. So I'm ready to move on if you are.
Sore subject from Jake Swells. I can't believe the Guardians are going to win the Central. They don't even seem like a playoff team. Yeah, put them in the East, put the Orioles in the Central, and they are not a playoff team.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't be in the Central any longer. They'd be
they would have to play actual good teams and not the Twins and Tigers and Royals.
I know the White Sox would be going to the playoffs.
Yeah. The Orioles have like the same record as Cleveland or close to it, and they play the AL East all season long.
Yeah, Orioles are 75-67. Guardians are 76-66. White Sox 74-70. Twins not too far behind either, 72-70.
Yeah, they're balancing out the schedules next year. I wish they had done it this year.
They should just not have divisions, but whatever.
Yeah, agreed.
Schedule for the rest of the day. I knew where I was. MLB Live Before Lock coming up next. That's all we got for the rest of the day, 6 to 7. So check that out. Plenty of pre-recorded content for MLB, NFL, MMA, all the good stuff. Just go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're hitting that like button. 420 concurrent viewers. No reason we can't get up to 100 likes, or at the very least 420, 69. It'd be fun. That's all I got here. Free content for today, MLB Top Stacks. So if you're going to hear us talk about Top Stacks, you could follow along by heading to Stokastic and browsing to our Top Stacks tool. Mets and Pirates, 4.5 run implied total for the Mets, 2.9 for the Pirates. Taijuan Walker and Mitch Keller. No ownership going to Keller in this one. Don't think it should. 8K Taijuan Walker is projected for about 20% ownership. 8% odds of being a top 2 pitcher, 9% at value. Much like those other idiots in the first game, I'm going to get away from this ownership.
Yeah, he's another one where I think he's a good play. Like, he's going to project pretty well for his salary. He's got a good matchup. Pittsburgh sucks. They have a 2.8 implied run total. Good pitcher's park. But at the same time, Walker's got a 19.1% strikeout percentage, 4.03 xFIP. It's not like we're talking about any sort of a special pitcher here. Is he better than the Pirates? Sure. But there's just so many pitchers. And like, if you look at our projections and just, use them as, use them for context here, we have Taijuan Walker at 15.3 DraftKings points. There are 5 pitchers less than 2 points above him and 4 pitchers less than 2 points below him. And he's getting 22% ownership. So it's just, it really strikes me as a spot where, like, we've seen a lot of pitching ownership lately where I haven't really been able to get away from it because they're just head and shoulders better than the alternatives. Here, it's just, not only is he not head and shoulders better than the alternatives, but there are so many alternatives that they're not all getting ownership. So it's not that type of situation where, like, I don't remember what slate it was recently, but it was just like, if you get away from whoever the most popular pitcher is, then you're just getting to the next highest owned guy who's like 30%. There weren't any like good low owned guys. Here, there are very comparable low owned guys. Kluber projects relatively close to him. Montas projects relatively close to him. May projects close enough to him. So there's just a bunch of different ways you can go where, is Taijuan Walker a good play? Sure, but he's just not really different than a bunch of guys that are getting half the ownership.
We are on the same page here. 11th in top stacks, 16th in ownership for the Mets, 26th and 22nd for the Pirates. I don't have really any bit of this game from an offense perspective. If you're going anywhere, I assume it's the Mets. Do you like them at all?
Yeah, they've been really difficult for me to get to recently, though, and I think it's probably going to be the case again today. Keller's been really weird this year. He's got like a 4 flat xFIP. Doesn't strike guys out. He used to be somebody that would give up home runs or strike you out. Now he kind of just doesn't do either one. The park's not great for home runs. I still think it's a high upside spot for the Mets, but I think it's kind of just going to be difficult for me to prioritize them.
Yeah, I didn't get any more than 2 shares of Eduardo Escobar, and I don't really have anything on the Pirates side either. I wouldn't mind the Pirates, honestly, just because of the Taijuan Walker ownership, but I also don't think that they're a very good team. They've got a basically 2.9 run implied total. I'll just find better offenses that are the 10th best value.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. If this were a 5-game slate, I would have some things to say about the Pirates because Walker has allowed around a 175 expected ISO to both sides of the plate, and you do have some upside in this Pirates lineup. But knowing it's a 14-game slate, I'd be pretty upset if I happen to see that I'm playing like 15% Pirates or something.
Can't wait for that message in Slack. Red Sox and Royals. 4.8 run implied total for the Red Sox, 3.4 for the Royals. Michael Wacha and Jonathan Heasley. Here we go with the Royals. Wacha, unowned. Heasley, unowned. Wacha at 9,200 here just seems like too tough of a sell. He needs to just be cheaper in this spot. Don't know why he's not. So I will not be getting to pitching in this one.
Yeah, same here. Heasley is just flat out bad in a pretty difficult matchup. Wacha's got the better matchup, but at 9,200 on this particular slate, like ownership, with it being a 14-game slate, ownership in general is just going to be flat enough that I don't need to go too crazy finding low-owned guys. And I just think it's such a difficult thing to hope for that Wacha just outscores this entire range of pitchers that strike out more hitters than he does.
Let's go straight to the bats then, and we'll go straight to our top stack. That would be the Boston Red Sox, number 1 in top stack, 7th in top value, number 1 in ownership, around 13% aggregate. A lot of that work's being carried by Rafael Devers, but multiple guys in double digits here. They were my number 3 stack, so I'm a bit lighter on Boston than we are showing, which is making me fade Boston. But I don't really want to fade Boston because Jonathan Heasley sucks, and this lineup's a lot better than that. On paper, Boston looks great, but they are a little overowned.
Yeah, I think they look fantastic, and I hope that I'm getting to them. One other thing that makes them stand out here, and again, they are projected to go over-owned, but there is some value, and also there are so many good pitchers on this slate that it just makes Jonathan Heasley look even worse. He looks bad no matter what because the dude sucks, but on a slate like this, it just really is amplified. 211 expected ISO to lefties with a 15.5% strikeout percentage. 184 expected ISO to righties with a 15.3% strikeout percentage. Boston gives you, guys that you can pay up for at the top, but like a 4K Alex Verdugo hitting cleanup is a reasonable salary. 2K Tristan Casas hitting 6th is a phenomenal value. He's essentially Vinny Pasquantino 2.0 at this point. Top hitting prospect, one of the top hitting prospects in baseball. 2K flat. Plenty of power, good matchup. So he looks great. It's just going to come down to, can you balance out a Boston lineup? That's where I think some of these low-owned mid-range pitchers that we've talked about, or at least referenced, come in. That's where I think even somebody like a Tristan McKenzie comes in for me, because Boston does project really, really well. It is a good spot. At the same time, they're getting 14% aggregate ownership on a slate with 27 other teams.
Yeah, so for me right now, and I don't think anybody's going to be surprised, like I have Boston and the Blue Jays as basically the same stack today. Steamer has Heasley and Lyles, very similar from a fit perspective. Projected run totals are pretty similar on both sides. So I have their top stack odds as
Wait, you think Heasley and Lyles are similar?
From a Steamer perspective, yes.
Yeah, I think Steamer's drunk.
Jordan Lyles, 5. Jonathan Heasley, 5.02.
I think Lyles is better at literally everything.
Fair. I'll trust Steamer.
You shouldn't.
In this particular case, I don't look. The point that I'm trying to say here is that I don't think that the Toronto Blue Jays and Boston Red Sox are separated by all that much in terms of offense today.
Okay, and I agree with that. Like, if you want to, we can.
One of them's 13.5% owned, the other 6.5% owned. That sort of gap doesn't exist in their top stack odds for today to me.
Right. And I mean, like, sure, there's a little bit more value on Boston, particularly because of Tristan Casas. But like to that point, 14% ownership to Boston. I mean, you can make that case for a lot of teams. Like, they're not twice as likely to be the top stack. I mean, I guess we have them pretty close, but I don't think they're twice as likely to be the top stack compared to Toronto or Houston or St. Louis or San Diego or Seattle. And, they're getting pretty close to twice the ownership of all of those teams.
I actually think it is Houston, and we'll get there in a bit. But either way, this is just, I'm finding it very easy to just find an alternative spot to ownership today that I think looks exactly the same as the other one, but at just half of the ownership. Everywhere, hitting, pitching, like both of those things seem to exist today. I don't know how that's going to shake out. It makes for a weird slate, but I kind of like it. Devers in cash, I assume.
Yeah, I haven't made a cash on it, but I would think so. If you remove Lyles' plays at Camden, he'd be worse than Heasley. Camden is not. I mean, wait. If you remove Lyles' plays at Camden, he would be worse than Heasley. Yeah, Kaufman's not a good place to pitch, or it's not a good place to hit. Like, no. It's not that.
No, they're both pitcher sparks.
And I mean, only half of Camden is.
Sure. Well, the run scoring is just down in general too.
Well, yeah, I mean, most hitters are right-handed, and you can't hit home runs to left field anymore. But
very true.
Lefties still have a great place to hit, whereas that doesn't exist in Kaufman.
Are you getting to your Royals today? 4th in value, 14th in top stack, but 4th in ownership. Seems like a day where we can finally get slightly away from them.
Yeah, I mean, the ownership is there. I still have some interest just for the same reasons as always. I think Waka is a pretty average pitcher. Melendez, Witt, Perez, Pasquantino are all good plays for various reasons. MPE on Melendez and Witt is nice. Perez being a catcher is nice. Pasquantino being 2K for God knows what reason is nice. So I get why there's some ownership coming in there. I don't mind them as, lineup filler or a cheap stack here and there, but I don't think it's a team that I'm going to be going too crazy on tonight, probably getting closer to the field.
I need to look something up quick before I say it out loud.
Lyles wasn't on the Orioles until this year.
I mean, let's not let facts get in the way. Pasquantino, 115 WRC plus so far this season, 163 ISO. That's all solid. Why is he flat 2K?
His salary dropped. It was 2,200 yesterday.
Is it just like is this like a replacement level first baseman thing? Where like
I have no idea what it is. I mean, it's not like he's putting up fluky numbers. He's one of the top hitting prospects in baseball. He's immediately come up and done exactly what everyone thought he was going to do. He's striking out 13% of the time, walking 11% of the time. 163 ISO, I think, is probably lower than it should be. Just going from memory, I'm not positive on that. 115 WRC plus, like 365 expected WOBA. Just no business being 2K.
No.
Like most, really no regular starters outside of like, I don't know, Nicky Lopez should be 2K just because there's so, like, it's such a cheap price tag and there's so much just volatility in hitting that if, like, you just shouldn't have a 2K floor on hitters anyway, I don't think. But certainly not middle of the order top prospects who are just lighting it up right out of the gate.
He has 219 plate appearances this season. Of every first baseman that shows up for Fangraphs at first base, where do you think his WRC plus ranks?
Top 10.
18th.
Really?
Yeah.
Which still means shouldn't be 2K.
No, well, it's still 115.
He get into really bad luck when he first came up, though.
Goldschmidt, Freeman, Lowe, Abreu, Alonso, Luis Arias. So we'll see Rizzo, Guerrero, Bell, France, Miranda, Hoskins, Keston Hiura, Paredes, Walker, LeMahieu, Olsen, and Pasquantino.
So he has 168 plate appearances against righties this year, 233 BABIP. 325 WOBA, 356 expected WOBA, 187 ISO, 213 expected ISO. When he first came up, and it's obviously gotten better since, but when he first came up, it was just like, if you looked at his surface numbers, he just wasn't hitting well, but like every number just said he was getting insanely unlucky. So I think that's probably part of the reason he'd be even higher if he had just hit in the normal luck out of the gate.
I just assumed that I was going to look at it and just be like, oh, he's at like, 95 or something. Not the case. All right, one of the more interesting talking points here is going to be the Tigers and White Sox. 3.5 run implied total for the Tigers, 4.2 for the White Sox. Matt Manning and Lucas Giolito going here. Manning 6,200 unowned. Don't really think he should be owned. Lucas Giolito 7,800 against the Tigers. 26% K rate is what I have on the Tigers today. Good God. And he is 26% owned at 7,800. I think he's the one that's getting the ownership that is deserved of the people in this mid-tier. I've got him ahead of Walker. I've got him well ahead of Gray. I've got him ahead of basically everybody above him until I get to Blake Snell. I will be going to Lucas Giolito because he looks good.
We have him as the 6th highest projected pitcher on DraftKings. Every pitcher projected ahead of him is at least $9,400. He's 7,800. You mentioned the strikeout percentage in the Tigers lineup. Giolito also has just the flat out 5th highest strikeout percentage on this slate, behind Snell, Ray, Luzardo, and Verlander this year, slightly ahead of Josiah Gray and Tristan McKenzie. And the thing that me and Greg talked about this morning, and I think it comes up in chat a lot, is you have to keep in mind that at this point, Lucas Giolito is $7,800. So he's being priced for his flaws. And I think there's a tendency to just be like, oh, Giolito sucks because XYZ, or I can't trust Giolito because like the frame of reference is what Lucas Giolito used to be. But Lucas Giolito used to be at a price point where you would have to compare him to Robbie Ray and Justin Verlander. You don't have to do that anymore. And if you're just going to say like, oh, I don't feel comfortable playing Lucas Giolito because sometimes he's bad, who out of Frankie Montas and Josiah Gray and Corey Kluber and Taijuan Walker can you not say that about? So to me, there's no real reason at this price point to be scared to go to Giolito. Like, is he going to have a great game? Who knows? But at this price point, I think the reasons that I would hesitate are just alleviated.
Lucas Giolito has a 5.18 ERA, which is some nonsense Sean V would spout out in our chat. He also has a 4.2 FIP, a 3.65 xFIP, and a 3.78 Scherer. He's still good. He shouldn't be 7,800. We need to stop pricing people based on their ERA for this season.
Yeah, and Greg made the good point a while ago on a show that he actually prefers using FIP on Giolito because he's had a high home run to fly ball percentage throughout like his entire career. But still, 4.2 FIP is a full run better than his ERA. Yeah. And on top of that, he's facing the Tigers and striking out 25+% of hitters, even in a quote unquote bad year. And he is priced around a bunch of other, not bad, but like just flawed pitchers. So comparing him to the Lucas Giolito that was priced at $10,000 a year or two ago doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, it's insane. He looks fantastic. Very clearly the best mid-range option. Not even close. Bats here. White Sox are 7th in top stack, 9th in ownership. Tigers are not close to the top stack, but they are 3rd in value. The more likely scenario for me is that I'm not really getting to any bats, but if I'm getting to any side of this one, it would be the White Sox. I'm just not.
Yeah, same for me. Manning, I always have a really difficult time talking about him just because I just have no idea what to make of him. Former top prospect, at times appears to completely forget how to pitch in the major leagues. Other times he looks good. I did mention it. I know you'll appreciate it. Hopefully Eric's watching by now. I mentioned it to Greg this morning that one of my favorite things that's happened recently was Manning had that really, really good start against, I think it was like the Giants, and he was like 1% owned, and Eric jumps on Twitter and he's like victory lapping Matt Manning because apparently I'm the only person that did my research today and played Matt Manning. Like there was some like huge reason Manning was going to be good going forward. Next start, negative 12 points from Matt Manning. So I really enjoyed
2 1/3, 7 hits, 7 runs in that next start.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, like he's not a pitcher that I'm comfortable. Like I'm much more comfortable saying John Heasley sucks than I am saying Matt Manning sucks. At this point in time, though, I still don't think Matt Manning is very good. What's up, Eric? Glad you're here. And
Eric, do you get your followers back on Twitter yet?
Manning was not chalky that slate. If you're talking about the one he did well, I don't think Manning's ever been chalky. But anyway, the White Sox like look fine. There's obviously upside here, but at the same time, it's not a great park to hit in. There's a ton of good offenses to go to today. They're just kind of middle of the pack for me.
August 24th was the day of that start. If I pull up the relay throw, Matt Manning was, I don't even know if his name's Matt. That's the worst part here. Manning was not listed. It was not on a main slate?
I don't know. I know that Eric's saying he was popular the day he got lit up, which would mean it definitely wasn't a main slate.
Okay, the day he got lit up, 8:30 then. I'm looking this up. I just want to know. Because it's more fun if we find out that he's wrong, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Getting there. Matt Manning was 6% owned the day that he got lit up. Crisp 6% owned. So, do with that what you will. We're not talking Tigers bats, right?
The hell did we get to the Dodgers?
Huh?
Did
Did
you
I
say
say
we're not
Dodgers?
talking Dodgers bats?
Tigers bats.
Oh, I don't think we need to.
Rays and Rangers, 4-run implied total for the Rays, 3.3 for the Rangers. Corey Kluber and Martin Perez. No real ownership going to Perez at 9,100. He's just not that kind of guy. Goes deep enough, but I think there are just higher strikeout guys out there. And I don't want to take anybody against the Rays. Opposite side, though, Corey Kluber, 7,400 against the Rangers, only 8% owned. That's about what I have, but I find him more interesting than Josiah Gray, just given the ownership. Not necessarily somebody I want to go to like crazy. Our top pitcher tool likes him.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think the ownership makes sense. I agree that he probably shouldn't be like 1/3 of Gray's ownership. He doesn't have the same sort of strikeout stuff though, and the matchup is more difficult. The Rangers actually, have more good hitters than Miami does, but Gray this year, a 25% strikeout percentage, whereas Kluber's at 20.5. Decent pitcher, good park to pitch in. I like him. If you're playing the Red Sox, I think he's a pitcher that you can mix in just because he's sub 10% owned. They typically don't want him to go too deep in the games. Like you're going to see 85, 90 pitches, but he is efficient. So, it's not like he's probably just giving you 5-6 innings and getting out of there. But I think Kluber's fine in tournaments. If you have a low enough owned stack, like I still like the upside on Gray a little bit more.
I should not be bringing this up right now because it has nothing to do with this, but someone left a comment on one of Ben's betting videos that said, Ben, your face is literally constructed looking like you're the type to cough in public without covering your mouth. You look like one of those people. Great content, though.
I think out of everybody that works here, Ben might be the least likely.
He's not going to be in public.
Yeah, good point. Ben doesn't do anything.
He eats takeout every single day. Like it's just coming to the house. So no. Probably not coughing in public, especially out in public in what was the epicenter of COVID for the first however long it was.
Yeah.
Rays and Rangers bats, 21st and 23rd owned respectively, 17th and 19th in our top stack tool. There is no offense here for me.
No, me neither. The park sucks. The pitchers are good enough. Martin Perez has like a 110 expected ISO to righties this year, and you're not even getting really discounted bats. Paredes is hitting 5th. He does seem to hit 2 home runs whenever he starts, but it's not a spot that I can really get to. On the other side, Semien and Seager low. Those guys all have upside. You have Josh Jung, another top prospect priced at $2,300, but good enough pitcher in Kluber, really tough park to hit in. Just a big enough slate that I don't really see getting to Texas.
All right. 2 things that I got to do right now. 3 things. 1, hit the like button. 540 people, 88 likes. We need to get up over 100 quickly. 2nd, thanks to Jorge/George. Either direction. I'm going to say it both ways for the rest of my life. 50 gifted subs in the YouTube chat. Thank you so much for that, man. I know people are going to be really happy to be getting those badges. And then finally, buckle up for this one. You see the banner at the top of the screen. If you sign up at BetMGM using the link in the description of this video and bet $10 on a money line, I'm being very specific here. It's got to be on a money line. If you're doing it today or tomorrow, it's got to be college football. Do this. You will win $200 from BetMGM if any team scores a touchdown. Doesn't even have to be your bet. Any team scores a touchdown. So bet 10 to win 200. Got to be on college football either today or tomorrow. You will get $200 from BetMGM as long as you follow that link. It's that simple. I know it sounds complicated, but it really is that simple. And it's free monies, folks. So Totes McGoats wants to know, which team should I bet on, though? Check out the channel. Check out the Odd Shopper channel. I'm quite confident there's some betting content out there for you. Matt Gajeski, I believe, has a video up right now with some betting picks. That actually, the quote from Ben might actually be from their betting video. So check that out. BetMGM, baby. Get that free money. I desperately want to take advantage of these sportsbook offers. North Carolina is going to be the last state, and they're just going to stop offering all of this shit. And it's just going to be
they're going to.
Oh, cool! I lost out on.
They'll have acquired
$10,000
enough customers by then.
Yeah, like whatever one we had recently that was like $1,000 free bet or something on BetMGM. It's just like, can that come back at some point in time for me?
Can you bet in South Carolina?
I have no idea, but I doubt it. I legitimately have no clue, though. There's no chance I'm driving an hour to go to South Carolina to bet, though.
I'll say I know I can bet in every state around me, but I still just don't.
Yeah, I don't. Not that I'm aware of. Anybody in South Carolina that can bet or can't bet, let me know. Braves and Phillies. 4.5 run implied total for the Braves, 3.1 for the Phillies. Max Fried and Ranger Suarez. Suarez 9K unowned in this spot against the Braves. Fried, on the other hand, 10,100 projected for 14% ownership. Do I want to get to Fried? Sort of, but I think he's sort of just like properly owned. The price is certainly enough. This is a spot where I would just sort of rather have Tristan McKenzie. I think it's a little bit easier to work it into my lineup, but any Fried that I get, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I feel pretty similarly about him as I do McKenzie, where there's pitchers that I think just project a little bit better for their salaries, but you're still talking about a really good pitcher in Fried. Modest ownership. So, if you are getting to the Red Sox, for example, that's a team that I think Fried pairs really well with, maybe Toronto. So, yeah, like I like Fried, but I like I don't know, 18 pitchers on this slate or something.
Ryan Stubbs says, Josh, I'm in Utah. It will never be legal here. Yeah, but your deal is probably like buy one wife, get 10 free. So yours is like slightly better than that. Anything for Suarez against the Braves? There are some strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like Michael Wacha to me, where he's an okay pitcher, but I just have no idea how I would get to him on this slate unless it's like a random lineup, because he's only struck out 20% of right-handed hitters this year, about a 20% strikeout percentage overall. And he's just more expensive than a bunch of guys that have better strikeout percentages and are also not facing the Braves.
12th in top stack, 18th in ownership. Phillies are 24th and 27th. I don't think there's any justification whatsoever for talking about the Phillies. However, do the Braves look a little under-owned to you? I'm not getting there, but I could see it.
Yeah, I think they're really similar to the Mets, and we actually have them like almost identical in the top stacks tool in both ownership and top stack. They're expensive enough where I don't know that I'll get to all that much of them, but I'll certainly be happy if I do. Suarez has done a good job limiting power this year. Only a 119 expected ISO to righties, well below 100 to lefties. But Acuna, Swanson, Riley, Olsen, d'Arnaud, Contreras, like these guys just have so much power upside that they're always appealing when they're not owned. But, I don't know, make this like an 8-game slate and give me 2 to 3% ownership on Atlanta. I think it's going to be a lot easier than a 14-game slate where there's just going to be an abundance of teams that are more favorably priced that look the same-ish.
Yeah, I don't have much to say here. Highest owned guy is Acuna at 6.7%. Second highest is Riley at 2.7. There's no ownership here. So then we move on. Brewers and Yankees. 3.9 run applied total for the Brewers. 4.1 for the Yanks. Adrian Hauser and Frankie Montas. 6K for Hauser, unowned. The Yankees on the opposite side. Frankie Montas, 8,400, 5% owned. And this is just another spot where I would rather have Frankie Montas than Josiah Gray for sure. At the ownership, I'd rather get to more Frankie Montas instead of someone like Taijuan Walker. Just give me a little bit more Montas than 5%.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. It's a relatively dangerous matchup against a Brewers team that has a lot of power in whatever American Family First Miller Park, whatever it's called. But you're just talking about a pretty solid pitcher in Montas. 23.7% strikeout percentage this year, 3.5 xFIP. Yeah, he's had some rough starts since going to the Yankees, but that's not something that I really care about. So, again, like, do I think he should be lower owned than Josiah Gray? Yes. Do I think he should be lower owned than Walker? Yes. Do I think it should be at a 4 to 5 to 1 discount? Probably not. Their median projections are pretty similar. I think that at the very least, Montas is a guy that's going to, if you want to go to one of these more popular offenses, Montas is another guy that'll let you do it.
Trying to look at Montas's numbers to see if there's anything we can glean from this. Strikeout rate just disappeared after the trade, which is kind of wild. Exact same velocity on the fastball, exact same velocity on the slider, exact same velocity on the splitter. It's just strikeouts sort of just went away. And I don't really know what to do with that kind of information.
For Montas since coming to the Yankees, mean?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Wish I had something, but I sure don't.
Yeah, I mean, not even the first, two starts in the middle, or three of the starts, he kind of just didn't throw a splitter. But other than that, he has been.
Swinging strike rate
looks
exact
fine.
same, exact same.
Well,
12.7 for Oakland, 12.8 for the Yankees.
Yeah. So I was looking at it on a game by game, and with the Yankees, he's at 9.4, 12.8, 6.5, 10.9, 14.3, 22.6, 12.3. So like he's kind of been lower other than the one game where he got 22% against Tampa.
I mean, averages are averages.
Yeah, but we're talking about like 7 starts.
I mean, you and I are saying the same thing here. We're not going to treat him any different than he was before.
Right. Yeah. I was just saying that like he's been a little bit worse with the Yankees there.
We're not going to talk about Hauser here. 8th in top stack for the Yanks, 10th in ownership. Not really getting here. Kind of a bummer given the fact that power is played up big time here in whatever the hell this park is called. So sign me up for a little bit of Yankees. I don't know. What do you see here?
I kind of like the combination of value and power. The thing that sucks is they're not very good, most of the cheap bats, but still, like if you can stack a team that has, Judge and Stanton at the top, Torres is going to look good. I'm willing to just suck it up and hope that I get lucky with Cabrera or Connor Falefa or Gonzalez. The matchup against Hauser isn't great, but there's just so many good pitchers on this slate that it does make him look a little bit worse relatively. So I don't mind getting to the Yankees. 167 expected ISO to lefties from Hauser, 124 to righties.
Just so everybody, and by everybody I mean Ron, 101 park factor for strikeouts for the A's, rolling 3-year park factor that is. For the Yankees, 103. So basically the exact same thing. In fact,
the larger foul territory thing means he should be getting more strikeouts if you're going to make that argument with the Yankees.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's slightly higher,
extrapolating backwards.
Yep, that's just in reverse. Brewers bats against Montas, since he's apparently a different guy now.
If they were cheaper, I'd have a little bit more interest, not because of any recent results, just because I do like the power upside. But it's just tough for me on this slate to want to pay these prices. Like Yelich's price has gone back up to 4,900. Tellez is back up to 4,800. It's just going to be really difficult, I think, to stack all of these guys together and then still round it out with a good team.
Now we get to the one that I want to talk about the most, Astros and A's. I got it at 4.9 runs for the Stros, 2.5 for the A's, Justin Verlander and Adrian Martinez. We're not going to talk about Martinez. We got to talk about Verlander. 11K. So they have got quite the healthy price tag on Justin Verlander for today. 25% ownership is limited, I assume, based on his price tag and the question mark that we have of how deep is Justin Verlander going in this game. Feels to me that like 5-6 innings is just like a no-brainer based on how big this gap is between, like, it's a 2.5. I mean, they're getting doubled up. The Astros implied run total here is twice the A's. The A's are still projected as if they're getting like a healthy amount of Justin Verlander. So I'm projecting Justin Verlander like he's going to have a normal Justin Verlander start today, at which point I think he's far and away the best pitching option for today.
Normal meaning like 85 to 90 pitches, or normal meaning like Verlander can go throw 8 innings?
I don't think I would be surprised for it.
I would be absolutely shocked.
You'd be shocked if he went 8?
Houston is winning their division by 13 games right now. All they want is Justin Verlander to just go make a start, be good for the postseason. Like, there is no reason for him to give you.
If that's the case, then why isn't he just taking a longer amount of time and a spot start somewhere else?
He didn't need it. He had like a random calf injury, left the game. Right. They were cautious with him, but like they haven't been letting him go that deep recently anyway. 91, 103, 92, 96, 94. And before that, he was between 100 and 105 in like every start. I fully think they're just going to have him throw 85, 90 pitches and get the hell out. Which still makes him good. Yeah. I just don't think you have the complete game, 115 pitch upside.
I wish we had more information here. He could cut through this Oakland team pretty easily with this strikeout rate. Man, I don't know how to project him differently. I don't know what innings. I gave him 6 innings. That's less than I would have actually given him if this were just a normal start. When was the last time
And
he
even
pitched? It was
this,
like
like,
18
not
days
not
ago
that
or
I
something.
totally hate this narrative, but SMP said he's competing for the Cy Young, and it's possible Dusty Baker cares. Does I mean I don't even know which way that works. Like, if Justin Verlander gives up no runs in 6 innings and he's at 90 pitches, doesn't that help his case more than if he throws one extra inning and gives up 2 runs in that inning? Like, I don't think anybody's voting or not voting for Verlander based on if he gets the 7th or 8th inning here.
The last time, other than the start where he left early and was obviously mowing down Baltimore too, the last time he's thrown less than 6 innings, June 18th, 3 2/3 against the White Sox. I think we're getting 6 here.
That's what I'm very comfortable with.
At 6 innings, I have Justin Verlander projected for 24 DraftKings points. That is 5 more than my boy Tristan
God, that
McKenzie.
seems so high. Like, he's because he has like a 26.5% strikeout percentage this year too. And I know it's
I
a
got
good
the A's
matchup.
at 24%.
Like, what'd you say?
Dermis Garcia, we probably got an Oakland lineup, so these guys might not actually be in the lineup. But two of the guys that are in the Oakland lineup that I have are 36% and 33. Seth Brown, Laureano, Langoliers, all 26% or higher. It's a great spot.
Yeah, I mean it is. It is.
It's a 2.5 point run or 2.5 run total for a reason.
A lot of the reason is just that Oakland sucks.
Right. That makes me like Justin Verlander. That's the point.
No? Right. I'm just saying, like, I'm not reading into the run total and saying that I don't expect Verlander to be limited at all.
I wonder if we have a prize picks prop on any of this. Because they put like pitch totals and stuff. Not that like that matters, but they still also want to be right. Pitches thrown. Do we get Verlander? No, they don't even have it, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have him at 19.8. You said you have him at 24. I feel like I would like, I don't know, 21 or something.
Fair. Wait, look, and that's, if we're going to be honest with everybody, like, wisdom of the crowds is probably going to be your best outcome in this case. That's generally how life works. Yeah, if I give him 6 innings, I get to 24. If I gave him 5, I would only get to like 21. That's just how good of a spot it looks like going up against an Oakland A's team with a truly trash run total.
Oh, I am blind. Somebody asked about Ozzy Albies. I didn't realize he was back in the lineup because he's hitting 8th, and that's not where I look for him. But yeah, he's hitting 8th at 4,900. He's a switch hitter. He's good, but he's a $4,900 guy hitting 8th.
5.5 strikeouts per Steven Leibowitz is the prop. I'd love to know if that prop is out there at any books, because to me that feels like there would be heavy juice on that over, but they don't care. I got him at 6.7 strikeouts. So, call it 6 if we want to. Either way, I'm 2x the field on Justin Verlander. I'm going to make the stand that 6 innings is enough for me. What do you think you're doing with Verlander?
Trying to find over 5.5 strikeouts minus 142.
Where'd you go for that?
Pinnacle.
Okay.
Under is plus 107.
Over 5.5 minus what?
142.
So, yeah. I like what I've got in here right now for Justin Verlander. I think I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're a little high, but.
Well, that's every day, man. Fine, I'll go down to 23. I'll take one more out. 5 2/3. What do you think you do with Verlander? Because I think it's kind of a big decision point here on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I think I play him a good amount. It really, I think, depends what offenses I get to. Like, if I'm getting to, I don't know, who's cheap that we like. We kind of like the Orioles. They were cheap. If I'm getting to cheaper offenses, then yeah, gladly I'll take Verlander over Dustin May or whatever. But I don't think I'm going to end up making that much of a push to get to him, just because he is so much more expensive. And it's not just that there's 1 or 2 mid-range pitchers I like. There's just so many that give you a really high ceiling and let you get to better bats. So I think I'll certainly have Verlander. I don't think he stands out as somebody that I don't really expect to be like jamming him in every lineup like I have with a lot of the pay-up options recently.
depending on what you end up using as your projection, don't be surprised if you do. I obviously have north of 50% Verlander right now. My two highest exposed teams, they are making up at this point 60+% of my stacks. The Houston Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm not exactly taking a haircut in terms of salary.
Yeah, then in that case, maybe I'll just get there more.
Yeah. That's part of the reason that I'm like advocating for it as hard as I am, because it's not stopping me from getting from two of the top 4 offenses on the slate. So I think it's pretty easy to just fill out around him. Like Giolito's saving everything. A quarter of my lineups can be $7,800 Giolito. I don't really care what Verlander's price is any longer. I also am jamming the Astros. So if we want to talk about that, 6th in top stack, 6th in ownership. They were my number 1 stack heading into the show. I don't think anything's going to be changing there. I mean, the bottom of this, like Trey Mancini projected for no ownership at 4,300 against Adrian Martinez. Okay. Either this dude's projected wrong or Adrian Martinez is the shittiest pitcher that's ever been in baseball. I got him at an 8% K rate and a 7.5 FIP from Steamer. There's got to be more than one Adrian Martinez, right?
Yeah, I think he might have taken an infielder or something.
No, that I actually can't do.
18 starts at AAA this year, 25.7% strikeout percentage. 8 starts in the majors this year, 17.9%.
Gonna have to fix that one, that's for sure. I don't know what Steamer's looking at for this one, but like I told you, Steamer's just broken. But he's the only, unless he's got a different name somehow, the only Adrian Martinez that exists is some guy from the Cubs that just gets it pushed in. Either way, I love the Astros today.
Yeah, I think the Astros look pretty good. Martinez so far in the majors in those 8 starts, 185 expected ISO, 167 to righties, 167 to lefties. The Astros obviously an extremely good offense. They're running out a good lineup. You have Maldonado back in instead of Vasquez, so you kind of lose out on the catcher position unless you're just punting it. But you have Mancini in there. You have Tucker, Alvarez, Bregman, Pena, Altuve, all the guys that you would really want. So I think they look good. They're expensive, but you said that you're able to get to them and Verlander, so I guess that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, if I can get those guys, then that's just going to work for me. Where the hell is Adrian Martinez hiding in this sheet? That's what I really want to know. He's not actually Daniel or Luis, is he? He could be. Anything else for this one?
Nope.
All righty. Well, final quick promo code, MLBDD. If you're looking for a little bit of a break on the Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass, you can get 50% off by using that promo code. That'll give you access to everything on the back end. If you just want baseball, get an MLB Platinum Pass. Use that promo code MLBDD. You can see it on the screen right now. Get 50% off your first week. Yes, Tony, I am trusting Steamer when it says that Lyles and Heasley are the same. I will trust Steamer with everything because that's what I've done for 6 years, and how's that working out for you? Great. I can't complain one bit. But I don't know what Adrian Martinez this actually is. So,
by the way, 4.49 career xFIP for Jordan Lyles, 4.58 this year, 4.73 last year. Pretty sure if Heasley ever does that, it will be the best year he's ever had. Career 5.58, 5.57 this year, barely pitched last year. 4.24 at AA. Heasley is basically to AA what Jordan Lyles is to the major leagues.
Every projection system on Fangraphs has him north of 5 for a FIP and an ERA right now. Lyles, that is.
And
8 dudes aging like milk.
It's really not.
Lyles?
Yeah.
I mean, he's not aging well.
He's having the best season he's had since 2019.
That's all luck. Cardinals and Reds, 5.2 run implied total for the Cards, 3.2 for the Reds. Jack Flaherty and Fernando Cruz as the Reds starter for today. No ownership to Cruz, just an opener. 13% going to Flaherty at 7K. Does Flaherty look better than 13% owned if he can go 5 innings against the Reds?
Yeah, so this is another kind of sort of, not entirely. There's way more legitimate question marks here than there are on Giolito. But Jack Flaherty is $7,000 against the Reds. He's been god-awful this year, but he's also only made 5 starts. And we have a long track record of him being a good pitcher. So, like, if you had normal Jack Flaherty at 7K, he would just be like 85% owned here against the Reds. Instead, we have him at 13% because one, there's a lot of other options, and two, there's legitimate question marks around what he is at this point. But I'm not worried about pitch count or anything. In the 2 starts since he came back from injury, he's thrown 91 and 87 pitches. He's gone 5 innings in both of them. Even if he just goes 5 innings again, you're probably fine, but I'm not convinced that there isn't upside for more. And I just have a really difficult time believing that Jack Flaherty is suddenly somebody that strikes out 13% of hitters. So I really like him in tournaments if he's only going to be like 13% owned.
All right. I have a little bit more than the 13%, so we're on the same page. What do you want to do here with the Cardinals bats? Second in top stack. They were 8th in ownership. I'm a little bit over the field here. I think they look pretty good.
Yeah, I think they look pretty good. I don't love bullpen games in general, but I do like the Cardinals when they have a 5.5 implied run total, and they're just really good. You have pretty expensive pricing. Again, Tommy Edman continues to hit near the top of the order and be priced at $5,500. Goldschmidt and Arenado obviously deserve their prices, but then the rest of the team outside of 8th hitting Tyler O'Neill, this is a weird lineup. The rest of the team is pretty cheap. Like Brendan Donovan gives you a cheap multi-position eligible guy that does carry some pinch hit risk potentially, but Corey Dickerson hitting 5th, he's cheap. If you can't afford Goldschmidt in a particular team, you get Albert Pujols at 2,600. So as a full stack, I actually don't think it's going to be that difficult to get to here.
Okay. Yeah, I have 8% stacks, 8% aggregate ownership. I don't have the Reds though, and I'm not all that interested in getting to them.
I'm not either. I mean, I guess the case would be if you think Jack Flaherty is just completely broken or something. I don't have any real reasons to think that, but if you did, maybe you get there. But yeah, I don't see getting to the Reds.
All righty. Then we'll go Angels and Mariners. 3.7 run implied total for the Angels, 4.6 for the Mariners. Michael Lorenzen and Robbie Ray. Lorenzen unowned against the Mariners and should be. Robbie Ray, 9% owned at 9,800. This is another pitcher, much like Tristan McKenzie, that I just want to have more of. Not the best strikeout spot in the world for today for the Angels, but we'll see what their lineup ends up looking like. But I still want to just bet on Robbie Ray's talent.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the Angels lineups these days just aren't the same ones where you're just going to walk into 10 strikeouts. You've replaced Jared Walsh with Matt Duffy. You have David Fletcher back in the lineup, typically leading off. So it's a more difficult strikeout lineup, but you're still talking about the pitcher with the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate behind Blake Snell, getting sub 10% ownership. It is a park downgrade for him. He does obviously have to deal with Trout and Ohtani and Ward. The middle of that order is pretty solid, to say the least, but I just don't really get it. And also, like, Blake Snell, is $400 cheaper. He leads the slate in strikeout percentage. He is projected for 21% ownership. I understand why he's popular. I think he should be. Let's not act like the Diamondbacks are a great strikeout matchup these days either. It's not like you can't just look at the Angels and say like, oh, well, they don't strike out as much anymore. Give me all the Blake Snell when it's the same issue over there. So if you make them the same ownership, I want Blake Snell, but they're not the same ownership. And I think Robbie Ray should be a little bit higher, just given that he has a higher strikeout percentage than every single pitcher except for one.
How do you feel about the bats here? We got to talk Mariners. They're 4th in top stack, 5th in top value, 3rd in ownership. Pulling a little bit more ownership than I thought they would, but at the same time, like, nobody's really egregious in Seattle's lineup either. They're just sort of balanced across the board. Does that interest you at all in a hitter's park, in case you were curious?
Yeah, I actually really like the Mariners here. I think they're just kind of checking a lot of boxes where we have them 4th in top stack percentage, but the only other team that is remotely close to them in top value percentage is Boston, and they're getting almost twice the ownership. The other teams around them, we have the Mariners at a 5.5% top value percentage. St. Louis is at 2%. The Padres are at 1.5%. Then you get to Seattle. Houston's at 0.5%. Toronto's at 1.5%. So I think they just kind of check a lot of boxes there. Michael Lorenzen has been much more prone to left-handed power this year than right-handed. 188 expected ISO to lefties compared to only 108 to righties. But when those righties are, Julio Rodriguez in particular, I don't really care. Ty France, Haniger, Suarez, these guys all have enough power, especially with the park shift. And then the bottom of the order, or towards the bottom of the order, I should say, Cal Raleigh at catcher, actually right now projected to be the highest owned guy from the Mariners. Good spot for him. He's got plenty of power from the left side. Jesse Winker, who has really been disappointing in his first year in Seattle, you're getting him in a just better hitter's park at a cheap price tag. So I like the Mariners here quite a bit, even though it's basically like on DraftKings, we have them projected to be a little bit overowned in terms of ownership versus top stack percentage. But I think when you factor in the pricing on pretty much everybody outside of Julio Rodriguez, they're just so easy to get to.
Anything for you for the Angels other than Trout and Ohtani?
I mean, they're clearly the priorities. Taylor Ward at 3,600, Rengifo with MPE look fine as well.
All righty. Diamondbacks and Padres, 3.6 run implied total for the Diamondbacks, 4.7 for the Pods. Madison Bumgarner and Blake Snell. No ownership to Bumgarner at 5,800 because he faces the Padres. 21% ownership going to Blake Snell at 9,400. Again, I would rather have McKenzie than Snell in this spot, but like I understand why Blake Snell's getting some ownership. I tend to be a little bit lighter on Snell just in general, but clearly this dude has massive strikeout stuff no matter what kind of team he's facing.
Yeah, the strikeout stuff's certainly there. You just need to dodge bad luck on balls in play, basically, after he walks a couple of guys. Dodge that one inning and you get the good Blake Snell start. Don't dodge it, and you're going to wish you didn't have him. There is enough pitching on this slate that he's someone else that like I typically get a lot of. I think on this slate, I probably get to him, but not in crazy numbers like I would before, which makes me feel good. I hate knowing when I'm going to get 60% Blake Snell. But yeah, it's, I don't love picking on the Diamondbacks at this point, but he is still the best strikeout pitcher on the slate. It's really not particularly close. 31.3% strikeout percentage. Robbie Ray is next at 28%. 3.34 xFIP for Snell. Yeah, I still want to get to him.
Do you want to get to the Padres? Third in top stack, third in ownership. A lot of that going to Kim, Soto, and Machado. Is this a stack you want here against Mad Bum?
Yeah, I like the Padres here. They are getting ownership and they are relatively expensive, but whereas last night I played them a lot, but didn't really like the spot against Jameson. If Madison Bumgarner were like in the minor leagues right now, he would not be remotely as highly regarded as Dre Jameson is at this point.
It's pronounced dry.
Yeah. Basically just a washed old dude at this point. 16% strikeout percentage against righties, 224 expected ISO. Lefties, 163 expected ISO, 16% strikeout percentage. The only lefty likely to be in the lineup is Juan Soto. He's down to 5,100 on DraftKings. I think he's like some insanely low price on FanDuel. So you're just going to get a lot of right-handed power. You're going to get a really good left-handed hitter who's in a little bit of a slump and is cheaper than normal because of that. So I do like getting to the Padres here. I won't get to as much of them as I did last night since the slate is entirely different, but I feel better about them tonight than I did last night.
Okay. Anything for the Diamondbacks on the opposite side of that Snell ownership?
I don't really think so. They're a team I like getting to, but I just don't really think this is the slate. I do like the price tag on the 1 through 5. Garrett, Rivera, Marte, Walker, Kelly. Like, there's definitely some upside there for cheap. It's just I have a hard time getting to them ahead of all these other teams. We just got the Mariners lineup. No Cal Raleigh. That sucks. Jesse Winker's hitting 5th. That's nice. Rodriguez, France, Suarez, Santana, Winker, Crawford, Frazier, Casali, Lamb. So relatively watered down lineup with no Cal Raleigh and no Mitch Haniger. Does make me a little bit less interested, but at the same time, it makes them a little bit more valuable when basically in the middle of the order now, instead of having $4,700 Haniger, you have $2,900 Winker.
Finally, we're closing it out. Giants and Dodgers, 3.2 run implied total for the Giants, 4.1 for the Dodgers. Logan Webb and Adam Scherer going for the Giants and Dodgers, respectively. Webb unowned, Dustin May 3% owned. I actually like Dustin May here at 3% ownership at 8,200.
So do I. His numbers in the majors this year in his 4 appearances. 4 appearances aren't great, but he's got really good stuff, and it should just be a matter of time before he puts it all together. And the fact that he's getting 3% ownership is just pretty appealing. We have him projected, just to put it in context, for 16.6 DraftKings points. That's a little bit more than Kluber. It's a little bit more than Josiah Gray. It's a little bit behind Jesus Luzardo and Giolito, but Luzardo pulling more ownership, Giolito pulling a lot more ownership, Gray and Kluber both pulling more. He's just another guy that I like, at the very least, mixing into my, Seattle, Boston, Padres stacks that are pretty popular.
All righty. Can we justify anything? I don't think that you have anything to say about Logan Webb. He's just not that kind of guy, and he's running up against the Dodgers. And I think both pitchers are good or pretty good, above average, great, whatever you want to say. I don't want the bats in this game.
Yeah,
either.
not on the bats here. I mean, obligatory mention, I guess the Dodgers are really good, but
Yeah.
There's plenty of really good offenses that aren't hitting in 60-degree weather in San Francisco against Logan Webb.
Let's sum it up. Favorite stacks?
Boston, if you can make the ownership work. San Diego, Seattle, Toronto.
Top pitchers?
Verlander, Ray, Giolito, Snell, Flaherty. Forgot Flaherty.
Well, live before lock coming up next. We ran a little long. I don't think the boys will be all that mad at us. Thank you for being here. Hit that like button and make sure you're signing up at BetMGM. The boys will tell you what you need to do on the next show. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you later.
I'd watch that show.
Hell yeah.
It's just a guy jumping off the bridge while he yells his home run called into the water. Devers is gonna hit 2
What's
balls.
happening, Stokastic baseball fans? Terry McBride here. I'm here with my pal Gundacker. This is MLB Live Before Lock. Hopefully you guys hung out through the deep dive. Those guys did a great breakdown game by game. Gun and I usually go game by game, but we're going to mix it up a little bit today. We're going to go like top pitchers, top stacks, like Live Before Lock usually is when there's two shows. So we'll get into that. But first, everybody, hit the like, hit the subscribe down there. Last I checked, let's see where we're at. The guys left us at 132 thumbs. If we get to we need like a solid, like, go old school, go batting average. We need like a solid 300 plus batting average. And then I think if we get to that point, producer Tyler behind the scenes is going to have no choice but to produce tomorrow's show live from the Texas A&M tailgate at the regular scheduled time instead of us going early with Live Before Lock. So let's get those thumbs. Let's get a little live from the tailgate action. Gun, how's your, what is today? Friday. How's your Friday going, buddy?
It's going, man. I've only been awake for like 2 hours.
Nice.
So, me, night owl.
Yep, I'm with you. I was up maybe 2 hours before that, took the dog for a walk, got my lineups in order. But yeah, I'm not too much of the day absorbed, much more than you, but it's been a good one. We are brought to you guys by BetMGM today. We'll do 2 plugs for BetMGM later on because there were 2 in the old run sheet. I don't want to screw anybody out of any contracted business, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Like I said, hit the like, hit the subscribe button down there. There's free stuff over at the site, I'm sure. Let's see what it is. If you hit the like and subscribe, get you DFS offers, giveaways, all the different shows, and you get notifications when we go live if you hit the notification button. So you get all that stuff. And if you go over to the site, you get free top stacks for MLB. We're about to dive into this MLB slate. So checking out the top stacks board along with the show is going to be pretty handy. That's all for free. If you're still playing MLB DFS, which it would be weird if you were here and you weren't, but hey, we like you too. Don't forget, everything we have to offer for MLB night slates on DK is 100% free the remainder of the season. So those 3 and 4 game, 9:45 Eastern, 6:45 kind of starts out in the West Coast. Those are going to be free. All the tools, top stacks, top pitchers, projections, ownership, all that good stuff. So click the DK Night Owl link down there somewhere on your way down. One more time, hit the subscribe. We'll talk promo codes. We'll talk all that fun stuff a little bit later on. Gun, what are you seeing for this slate overall? I think one of the themes for me is kind of a really flat pitching slate. Is that how you're seeing this one to start us off here?
Yeah, it's pitching and hitting. It's usually these big Friday night slates, there's often like a Coors Field to soak up 20-30%. Today it's wide open, man. It's wild west out here. So I don't have to overthink ownership, which I like. It's going to be real easy to get a trendier stack, a little bit more contrarian with a couple different pitchers. But yeah, I think this is going to be fun. And then nights like these, I have one of the more diverse portfolio of lineups, which I never know how to field before lock, but it's easy to get over the field on just about anything that you like. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's gonna be wide open. It's gonna be real interesting to see how it plays out. And we're starting to get to the deeper end of the season where some of these pitchers on teams that are pretty much punched their tickets. You wonder if we get okie doke. So I guess I don't know if you heard David Peterson. They were talking about how they were getting ready to move him to the bullpen, and he didn't have a long leash on the day he got lit up anyway. So I'm just waiting for some of those landmines to kind of show their face. But yeah, this should be fun.
Yeah, and there's one biggie that we'll talk about in half a second, and he's up near the top of the board overall. But just to illustrate how flat it is, I think it's really interesting to look at the single pitcher site on the pitchers tool, on our top pitchers tool over on the site. Our top ranked, most likely to be the top individual starter is Robbie Ray. He's at 6.5%. Usually we see that guy 13, 18, 10, 12. Like it's at least double digits. We're like half of what it normally is. And then you go down, you can go down, what is that, a dozen pitchers to like Frankie Montas, and he's at 4.1. The difference between 6.5% probable and 4.1%. I mean, what are we really talking about? This is basically negligible. So like you said, I'm not really worried about ownership today. You can go kind of anywhere. And I want to get to a big, broad distribution of these pitchers because I see a lot of these guys really the same if we're dealing with the one guy who I have a little bit of concern about. So let's dive into that. It dovetails with what you were just saying. What do you expect from Justin Verlander today, pitch count / innings wise? And how many pitches does he need to put up a monster score against this Athletics lineup?
I think 90 is a safe conservative projection. It might be more of like a inning thing than a pitch count thing. Obviously, if you break 100 in the 5th inning to get him out of there, but I would probably just wait for 6 innings and then expect that to be around 90. So I don't know if we're going to get CGSO unless he's trying to throw his name in as a final send off into like the Cy Young conversation. But I think he's pretty much in the conversation. Doesn't need to do anything crazy. And for Houston, next month is more important than this month.
Sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. They're going to want to keep him healthy. That's got to be at least in the back of the mind. I know the guys on the last show took a little while talking about it, so I don't want to push too much on it, but it was a big topic of conversation. And look, I mean, in my model, Verlander in this spot normally projects out far and away the best pitcher on this slate. But when I cut his innings back to 6, it brings him down to being like still the top guy, but just only slightly better than a big handful of these other guys. I don't think we've got that major difference that we would normally have with him. What are you doing with him in relation to like how you would normally have him / how you would have him versus the field here?
So normally if that, like you said, that projection is a little bit closer to the other guys. If the ownership was egregious, which it's not, I'd look at some guys that are, margin of difference or range of outcomes within 5 points and just go there. But we really don't have to do that because FanDuel has given us guys like Stanton and Soto and upper echelon guys at under 3K. So it just kind of offsets it and makes it all kind of a overthinking moot point anyway. So I'm just going to play him like I would play him and respect the matchup. And if this is one of those spots we open the book and he was like 25% owned, or really 40, higher than that, I can live with 18% on DK, and we can definitely live with 7% on FanDuel. So I don't feel like I have to reinvent the wheel here. I'm going to play one of the best pitchers on the slate and one of the best matchups.
Yeah, and that's the other thing on FanDuel. There are some different combinations as far as the ownership goes with some of these pitchers. You see a guy like Taijuan on DK drawing a decent amount of ownership in that matchup against Pittsburgh. That makes me say, like, and Adam mentioned this on the last show as well, it's like, I don't really want to go to I don't really trust him all that much. So if he's getting a ton of attention, I'm happy to just move in different directions, even though he does project out well. On the single pitcher site, he's at 7.5%, which is probably around appropriate for his talent level in that matchup and everything. So if he projects out well, I'm happy to get, around the field, a little bit above the field, I'd be fine with. Or if he comes through and just in the wash with these other guys, I'm also happy with that. And there's a lot of spots like that. So looking around the board outside of Verlander, who we just went through, who are some of the other top guys? Is Taijuan in that group of guys for you? And then like, who are some of the other guys you would rank up near your top of your board?
I feel like I'm always in a corner where I'm shooting slugs at Taijuan and I never play him. And today it's just kind of so easy to fade him again. 8% chance to be in the top 2 pitcher on DraftKings, according to our top pitchers tool, with 20% ownership. Like, that's GPP 101. I shouldn't even sniff that area when there's so many pitchers that are at the same price, same projection, with more positive leverage. So I think Taijuan is one of those guys I'm gonna stay away from. And that one stinks because I do like pitching against the Pirates, but yeah, I gotta find some place to zag when the field is zigging and vice versa. So I'm gonna go opposite the field on Taijuan and hope he doesn't break the slate.
What about on FanDuel for Taijuan, where he's 9,100, a lot more expensive than the 8K you're getting him for over on DK, but he's coming in at like 7.5% ownership. Would you be more comfortable playing him over there at the higher price?
Yeah, there's still some negative leverage there, but I'm more inclined to get there because I'm not, the field's not at 20%. So yeah, more there. And, I'm hoping
overall, it's like a spot that it's basically a spot that's created by the matchup, right? We've seen Taijuan. We know who this pitcher is. He's league average-ish, 19.1% strikeout rate, a 7.2% walk rate, 4.03 xFIP. The xFIP is nice. 3.48 ERA is definitely shinier than that, but still gives up a 40.7% hard hit. Like, this is not a guy I trust at all. So yeah, even if I don't get to that 7.5% on FanDuel, I'll have some shares, but I don't think I need to get too excited. Who is more appealing to you than on the DK slate specifically, since we've been a little FanDuel focused so far? Who's appealing to you? Who's kind of popping out that is giving you an advantage over the field, or just somebody that you like?
I found myself above the field a little bit on Giolito. I know I'm doing all this preaching on negative leverage on Taijuan Walker, but Giolito gives me a little bit more hope for strikeouts just on who he is. And it's really, really cheap against a Tigers team that I'm looking at today's confirmed lineup. Only I got Jonathan Scope with the lowest K rate in the last 2 years against righties at 20%. So when the lowest guy strikes out 1 in 5, 3 of the first 4 hitters strike out 30% on aggregate against righties. So it's just a huge strikeout matchup. And I know the Pirates are a huge strikeout matchup as well, but I think Giolito's the better strikeout pitcher than Taijuan Walker. So I'm leaning on a lot of Giolito. So I'm kind of trading negative leverage with the field. Let him have Taijuan, and I'll take Giolito.
Yeah, and that's one I would play both ways, where I would say, take the names off the board and just show me the numbers, and I would land on Giolito's side. Or you could take the numbers off the board and just show me the names. And I know for a fact that Lucas Giolito is a much better pitcher than Taijuan Walker.
Right.
And I love the matchup every bit as much. The Tigers against righties has been something we've been targeting all year long, and there's no reason to go away from it. And like on FanDuel, again, if 9,000, you're paying a little bit more for him than you are relative on DK at 7,800, but you're getting him at 13% ownership versus that 25 on the DK slate there. So I do think that that's appealing. Again, that's a spot I'm going to go to. I don't think it's inappropriate ownership. And if I end up above it, I'm happy. If I end up right with the field, I'm happy on it. Cause it's, again, I do want to get spread out, but that's a spot I definitely want to push. And we've talked about, they were talking about it on the last show. I brought it up in the chat. For all the ugliness of his 5.18 ERA is an extremely flawed stat. The guys talked about his FIP on the last show, but his xFIP is 3.65. That takes out some of the fly ball, the home run wonkiness that they were talking about. So 3.65 is better than the 3.75 that he had last year. So in a way, despite the dip in strikeout rate and strikeout percentage, he's pitching a little bit better overall when you take luck and defense out of things. So, and this is the Tigers. So
yeah.
I mean,
no, Tigers, 72 WRC plus 107 ISO against righties. I mean, I'm sold.
Yeah, sign me up. Let's see if anybody's dropped anything in the chat. Living with Damron, Cox and balls for. Oh, I see what you did there. Look at this guy with his cleverness.
That's a good trade, I guess. Season long questions. Go hit up Nick Lepre on the fantasy football channel.
Solid.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a solid yes to that trade. Everybody else, let's see. We got El Negro Loco hanging out in the chat, sharing some info. Let's see. Mitch Welsh says, Team McBee, what you're saying is, listen, class, this chapter is a hard one. Yes, Mike, Mitch, that is what I'm saying. Not really sure what I was talking about at the time because I've been rambling and not a ton going on in chat. Terry almost did it on Burgundy. Yeah, whatever you guys drop in chat, I will read if it's a nice enough super chat. So throw it in there, and we will be taking questions through the show, guys. So drop questions in there. I'll try and check both YouTube chat and Discord. Hit the like, the thumbs up, all that good stuff. Let me do a little business to knock this out of the way. Stokastic MLB with promo code MLB Live. This one says promo code Scramble, but it's probably promo code MLB Live. Maybe I didn't copy the thing over. Hold on 1 second. Let me talk about, you guys know what these promo codes are, right? They get you half off of your first week if you're a new subscriber or something like of the weekly plan, something like that. Let me scroll down to the old DMP here. Yep, it was my fault. I didn't copy the promo correctly. All right. So to get access to the Stokastic Plus content and nearly all the DFS sports out there, to hit the Stokastic Plus Platinum plan. It includes all the premium projections, the ownership, the different tools like the top stacks, the top hitters, top stacks for football, the boom bust tools for basketball, for football, everything you could possibly want. Our Discord channel. If you're a new Stokastic user, you can save 50% on your first week of any Stokastic Plus plan. I was right about that. All you have to do is click the link in the video description down there to activate the offer. You can head over to the join page, use promo code MLB Live, all caps, all one word, 50% off your first weekly package. It includes, it does not include Fantasy Cruncher. That's always a paid add-on. So make sure you're jumping over there. Check that out. You can get the MLB plan. You can get the NFL plan. You can get the Platinum plan, 50% off your first week with promo code MLB Live. Sorry for the clunky read there, fellas. I did not copy that correctly into the run sheet. Gun. Let's talk more pitching here. We've got a lot of guys on the board. Let me pick a guy. Oh, I don't know. He's on our team. So let's talk about him. Frankie Montas. He's sitting a little bit above the middle of the board, maybe the bottom of the top tier for me against the Brewers here, 8,600, 8,400. I really like the price. I think it's a reasonable enough spot for him. What are you doing with Frankie Montas? Any appeal?
I think the price, kind of like Giolito on DraftKings, you just open up DraftKings and see 8,400 for a guy like Montas, and you become interested pretty fast. Man, the results have been up and down since he's become a Yankee, but the last 4 games he's sustained a double-digit swing and strike rate. So that's good news. The xFIP outside of the Rays game was 3 games under 4. So the underlying metrics are still telling us there's still something there. and maybe luck just hasn't been on his side. So I'm willing to get there, especially if others are not. And in this case, we look at our top pitchers tool for DraftKings, and we go find Frankie Montas. We've given him an 8% chance of being a top 2 pitcher with just 5% ownership. So you get a little bit of positive leverage in there. The Yankees are on a travel day. They did reactivate Aroldis Chapman, so I do worry about a rested bullpen, and Montas hasn't been going past 90 pitches pretty often anyway. He did finally hit 100 against Tampa, but I think that was a little bit more circumstantial. I think that was the game where he got hit up early, and then he just snapped and started striking everyone out. And Booney was just like, all right, see what you got, kid. But I think generally speaking, I would only expect around 90 pitches for him. So I'm worried about a quick hook, but 8,400, I'll take that chance at that ownership, knowing that we have some positive leverage built in. So I like him.
Yeah, and that's the concern. It's another spot where, like you bring up, Boone's got a quick hook anyway. They do go to that bullpen early anyway. We saw that with Nestor Cortes the other day. Nestor was going fairly well, and they yanked him fairly early just before the quality start. So, yeah, I could definitely see that with Montas, but I think that's baked in on this price and this ownership. So I'm right there with you. I'm going to be going to that. Any love for Hauser on the other side, just sitting in that $6,000 range on both sides, not drawing any attention, any ownership, and justifiably so, going up against at least good top end of a Yankees lineup, and then it really, really falls off. But Hauser, middle of the road kind of a pitcher, maybe better real life pitcher, maybe possibly a guy who can keep the Yankees lineup down a little bit more than the average guy, but not somebody who projects well for DFS. You seeing anything different there?
No, I think that's what you said. Real life pitcher might hold him down, but how often is he going to be optimal in a big Friday night DFS slate? Probably.
Yeah. So he's below that list of guys where I'm kind of, considering this big broad spread of options. Do you have a guy in mind that would be like the cutoff point to you, where like, all right, nobody worse than this guy? And I know that's a relative thing, but there's definitely some cutoff points on this slate, I think, where we don't need to dip into like the Mannings of the world, the Martinezes of the world. Are there guys on that list where you're just, hey, I'm taking these guys out of the player pool today?
On DK, the cheapest guy I was considering was Flaherty, and I don't even know if I'm going to get there. And then looking a little bit above, maybe like Josiah Gray, just because he's one of those strikeout 10 or 5 home run kind of guys, sometimes both. But yeah, I think because of how many pitchers are on the slate and how, like we said, we don't have to get too contrarian because it's pretty flat ownership. I'm not going to dabble with the bums, and I usually don't get too cute at pitching anyway.
Yeah, and you don't need, unless you're going Verlander, you don't need crazy money for pitching. Like a lot of these guys are relatively affordable on both sites, so it's easy enough to get to. You mentioned also the discounts on Giancarlo Stanton and the ridiculous price that Juan Soto is listed at on FanDuel. That enables you to do basically whatever you want. You're riding a lot of the chalk with Soto, but I mean that's as bad a price as Wander Franco for like $200 the other day. Like it's doing very similar things to lineup constructions. Let's talk on that Marlins Nationals game here real quick, because I do think we've got two interesting young pitchers in Josiah Gray, who you mentioned, and then on the other side, Jesus Luzardo, both of whom are pitching against pretty lousy offenses in good spots. Luzardo drawing a little bit of attention, 18% owned at 8,700 on DK, 8.2% at 9,300 on FanDuel. On the other side, Gray, similarly high strikeout rate, more problems with home run balls, like you hinted at, more problems with premium contact, but he comes in a little bit cheaper, 8,200 on FanDuel, drawing a little bit more ownership, 76 on DK, drawing only 3 percentage points more ownership than Luzardo. Do you have a preference between the two, and how much of each guy are you planning on getting relative to the field?
Preference, not really. I guess I would say I'm right about equal on both, and it's almost none. But I do have some. I'm probably about 4-6% on either on DK. I don't think I get to either on FanDuel. I just didn't feel like that was necessary. I think the Luzardo is less likely to give up a bunch of homers and get in trouble. I think with Josiah Gray, he's got that 16% walk rate to lefties, and then that almost 12% barrel rate. That's going to make you sweat. At least with Luzardo, if he's going to let a few on, he's only got a 1.1 whip, 3.53 expected ERA, and he's less likely to give up that long ball. So for warm and fuzzies, I would lean Luzardo, but I'm probably going to be pretty close to both, and both have respectable ceilings that are worth having.
Yeah, and that's the case here, I think, is 27.7% strikeout rate for Luzardo over 75 and 2/3, and just a premium prospect. And Josiah Gray is a very high end prospect in his own right. 131 and 2/3 this year, 25.1% strikeout rate. We just worry about the walks. You mentioned the walk rate to lefties, but I'm looking at this lineup for the Marlins that he's going to be going against, and we've got nobody with more than the 9 home runs that Brian De La Cruz has in the lineup. The one guy with anything approaching a respectable ISO has 10 plate appearances, so that doesn't really count. The highest ISO in the lineup with a respectable amount of plate appearances is Nick Fortes at 161 ISO over 192. He's also the only guy with a positive WRC plus. I don't see a lot here, and there's certainly plenty of strikeouts. So I think Josiah Gray is worth having a few shares of for sure at that price. I just wish there were more expensive things that price was really enabling us to do, other than just say I'm rostering some Josiah Gray. Let's look around the board a little bit more. We talked Giolito. What about Dustin May out west in that LA San Francisco game? I think he's pretty interesting. Premium pitcher, big time strikeout kid when he's going right. We haven't necessarily seen him unleash everything that he's got so far this season. He's walking too many guys. The xFIP's a little high, but it's only a very small 21 inning sample. I think he's an interesting option here, not drawing any ownership in the mid to low 8s on both sites. Are you looking at Dustin May here?
I didn't have any Dustin May. One of the things I'm scared of with Dustin May is I really don't quite know what to put on like a pitch projection, because he has been all over the place. And then I'm also not sure what's real and what's not so far this season. We know last year, we didn't really have much sample size either. And the year before, kind of the same in the 2020 season. He had over a 4 expected ERA, and his results were better. This year is kind of middling, and his best game came against the Marlins, right? And then he had 2 games against the Padres. So he's only got 2 teams in 4 games, and it's just kind of like a strength of schedule deal that I'm wrestling with, on top of concerns about a potential pitch count. So I don't really know what to think about him, but I understand. We know that he has strikeout stuff, a 12% swinging strike rate. Yeah. Right now, I have none, but I certainly wouldn't fault anyone for being there.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those spots where I can see him slightly differently, and that might make me a little bit more interested. And basically, it's exactly what you suggested there. I've seen his strikeout stuff in the past. I know he's got that absurd 2-seamer that breaks 2.5 feet horizontally. If I get that Dustin May tonight, I like his strikeout upside, and I'm willing to just take some shots where the field's not going there. What about on the other side? Any Logan Webb interest going in? Really tough spot against the Dodgers here?
No, sir.
I didn't think so.
Well, I would say no, unless there is a chance the Dodgers put out that AAA lineup since they've. Oh no, it's already out.
No, yeah,
no, not
Mookie, yeah, Mookie, Trey, Freddie. It's the good version. Yeah, same here. No, I do think Logan Webb is a good pitcher overall, but no real interest. And even if he hits that upside game, I just don't see him striking out a bunch of these guys. You can pitch a clean game over 5-6 innings. I just still don't see that upside start here. Let's go shopping around the board, which is just such a broad slate, man. We could talk Robbie Ray, we could talk Blake Snell, we could talk Corey Kluber, we could talk Max Fried if we want to keep it with southpaws. Who do you like out of that group? Anybody in that group jumping out for you? Or if not, who's at the top of your board that we haven't talked about?
For the lefties, I think Robbie Ray's pretty intriguing. The Angels lineup, has it come out? I don't have it yet, right? But it does have a chance to be a pretty big strikeout opportunity for him. There are some scrappy guys against lefties in terms of strikeouts. Obviously, David Fletcher doesn't strike out. Luis Rengifo, Matt Duffy, but Duffy's not going to give you a ton of power. And Ohtani will strike out against lefties, so will Trout. And the bottom of this lineup is pretty healthy in terms of strikeouts as well. So Robbie Ray has a chance to, 8, 9, 10 strikeouts in a ceiling range of outcomes to put up a big number here. So out of all the lefties, I think he's probably the most appealing to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. We do know that Robbie Ray walks a few too many guys from time to time, but it's under control. 7.8% this year, 6.9% last year. He's not the Robbie Ray of old. Strikeouts are down from last year, but not all that concerningly so. And you get a weak lineup. And I know that they were talking about it on the previous show. I know that the strikeout rates have kind of stabilized / improved with the addition of some of these guys. Bringing a David Fletcher back to the lineup certainly has a huge impact with his 7% strikeout rate. But there's a lot of just low end bats in this lineup. Like, bringing in Matt Duffy does lower the strikeout rate, but he's a 246, 293, 296 hitter with a .050 ISO and a 68 WRC plus. There's not a lot of guys to worry about here for Robbie Ray. Get through Trout and Ohtani a couple times, and I really like his chances here. So another spot, 10-6 on FanDuel, also 2.3% owned. Sign me up for a few additional shares of Robbie Ray. Easy enough to get beyond the field. Are you getting to shares of Blake Snell against Arizona or shares of Max Fried against Philly?
I have him in the back end of my crunch. I didn't put him yet. It's one of those spots, if I didn't get any, I wouldn't be surprised. I think this D-backs lineup we saw last night kind of built to be pesky against lefties, at least 1 through 5 for me. I think Blake Snell's strikeout stuff is elite enough at 31% at 9,400 that he will probably end up in the back end of my crunch, but it'll be probably somewhere around the 6 to 8% number. And Max Fried is somebody I'm a little less worried about, just because he's so elite with his ground ball rate and that expected ERA being 3.28. I'd be more inclined to get to him, but it might be more of a FanDuel play for me, just because that ground ball rate can get him deeper into the game and maybe compensate for not being a strikeout per inning potentially in this matchup. But no warm and fuzzies. But that's the beauty of having such flat ownership across the board today, is I can be there on merits of individual talent and not need to be aggressive to position myself positively against the field.
Yep, absolutely. And it's a spot, honestly, both sides of that one, with Ranger Suarez going for the Phillies, 9,000 on DK, not drawing any attention, 81 on FanDuel, still not drawing any attention. He doesn't project great for me, but he's another guy where it's potentially holding down a very good lineup for me. So I'm not going to probably get to as much of the Braves stack against him as I normally would. Braves typically show immense power, but he's got a 4.6 degree average launch angle on the season, only a 1.93% home run rate over 134 and a third. If nothing else, Ranger Suarez is good at keeping the ball in the yard. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to chase the offenses in this one. I don't know that I'll go to Suarez, but I think I will have a little bit of the Fried upside. 23.1% strikeout rate for Fried versus the 20% for Suarez on the other side, but only a 4.2% walk rate for Fried. Like you mentioned, he just pitches deep into games. He pitches cleanly. I like him against this team here. So yeah, sign me up for a few shares of Max Fried. Let's talk real quick. I'll do the first of the 2 BetMGM plugs. That's right. There's 2, because this is such a good deal, or somebody made a mistake putting the run sheet together. I'm not really sure which, but if you go to BetMGM and you bet $10 to win, you can win $200 if any team scores a touchdown. That's any team. So I assume that this is for college football, like Josh was saying on the last show for today and tomorrow, because it's touchdown related. But if you go and you put a $10 team on the money line, a $10 bet on any money line, and any team in football scores a touchdown, you get $200. That's a pretty sweet deal. There's a link in the video description below. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe on your way down there. Click that link, claim your free $200. It's pretty easy with BetMGM, you guys. They are looking to pick up your wagering business. We'll talk about that again in just a second. But Gun, did we leave any pitchers on the table that you want to talk about? Somebody in the chat was just mentioning Martin Perez is going to be his secret weapon tonight. Don't know if I love that, but he is certainly another guy on this slate. Any love for Perez? And then where else you going? Who else you want to call out?
I don't have any Perez. I think one of the more polarizing pitchers that we didn't discuss, and I'd love your thoughts on, is Tristan McKenzie, just because he has such high strikeout potential. And this is a Twins lineup. It still has no Buxton, no Jorge Polanco. They did get Luis Ariz back. I was kind of worried about him 2 games ago. Still kind of scrappy, but still some strikeouts, especially in the bottom half of this lineup. Nick Gordon, Gary Sanchez, Jay Cave, Mark Contreras. These are guys with an aggregate of like 28% K rate against righties. So while there are some pesky ISO levels in this lineup that could maybe attack McKenzie's 1.4 home run per 9 against righties, there's certainly a world where McKenzie goes out there and becomes a very usable player. I think the price is a little uncomfortable on both sides, but perhaps that makes him, more suppressed in ownership. And How often would you say McKenzie can outscore Justin Verlander today? I think it's above 0, obviously. And we've got him at 11% ownership on the DraftKings slate. And on FanDuel, we're looking at 4% ownership.
Right?
So, yeah, there's an opportunity there. No warm and fuzzies. I know Josh was digging them, but I'm kind of curious to get your take. I have some, but I don't have more than 6%. And I don't know if I should change that.
So it's one of the spots that is sitting in my head as I'm doing my sort. I need to make sure that I filter for Tristan McKenzie and copy paste a few additional lineups because he's not going to come through in my model. The way that he's projecting at that price just isn't working for me. If I change a few things, I could make the projection, shoot up artificially, but I kind of don't want to get overexposed to him. But I do think that 4.3% ownership on FanDuel, like if you're double that, you're not overexposed. You're still under 10%. We're not talking about that many lineups. 24.8% strikeout rate on the season, 6.7% walk rate, a 3.05 ERA to a 3.97 xFIP, and a 0.97 WHIP. Nothing not to like about McKenzie here. I just don't think it's the most premium matchup available for guys around that talent level today. So I could see a few guys out pitching him, given that the Twins 20.3% strikeout rate, 5th best in baseball against righties, 111 WRC plus, 7th best for run creation. I'm a little concerned about him, but not so much that I would say, it's not to double the field on a GPP, at least on the FanDuel slate. And then if he's 11% on DK and I'm at 15, 18, I'm perfectly happy with that at that price.
Yeah, I think that's super fair. It's the price that really is the monkey wrench here for me.
Yeah. But I mean, we've got so many different spots where we can dump that salary savings into, or grab that salary savings rather from other guys, or you're just talking about pairing him with a fairly priced pitcher. If you're looking at that DK slate, a lot of the other options are going to be priced into the mid-range. So you don't need to necessarily save money for the high tens, $11,000 guy. You can view him as your SP1, pair him with another, $8,700 Jesus Luzardo. You're off and running with two excellent young pitchers. Anybody else before we switch over to the stacks and the bets?
No, I think we pretty well covered all the pitchers.
All right. Yeah, I think we did a pretty decent job getting through there. If there's anybody we didn't talk about, chat, that you want to bring up, drop them in. We'll work them into conversation if I happen to spot it. One more time, we are brought to you by BetMGM. If you're planning on making any kind of bets, or even if you're not planning on making a bet tonight, go over there, create an account, put $10 in it, bet that on any money line. Just close your eyes and pick a money line. You don't even have to care which one it is. It would be better if you pick one that's going to win. You can use like OddShopper or something to figure that out. But if you go to BetMGM, you place a wager for $10 on any money line. If any team in football scores a touchdown tonight, this is also good tomorrow. It's good, I guess, over the next few days. So go over there, you get $200 if any team scores a touchdown. The odds that nobody's going to score a touchdown are pretty thin. I don't know how many games are in college football tonight, but I'm guessing it's going to be pretty thin odds that nobody's going to score a touchdown. That's BetMGM. There's a link in the chat description below. Free $200 over there. Gun, who's your favorite stack tonight? All things considered, DFS wise.
Whew, man. I'm a sucker for the Cardinals. Today I'm also getting into a lot of Astros, Blue Jays, and Orioles. So we just got a super chat. They actually asked about the Orioles, so probably a good transition there. You're talking about that was Eric Traub says, what do you guys think about an Orioles stack? I love stacking against Kikuchi. Just weird to have him be a relief rather than opener. What do you think about Clee Torres? So I think the Orioles are just like a really good team, and this is a positive environment for hitters, and I think Kikuchi is also a positive environment for hitters. And I don't know that they have anything around them today, opening or coming in after him, that's really going to put me away from the Orioles. So I definitely like the Orioles quite a bit. And then, referencing our top stacks tool on Stokastic, Baltimore is pretty easy to get to. 1% ownership, 4% chance to be in the top stack. Story of this slate, pretty flat. I'll probably be sitting at Orioles. I have 8%, so I like them quite a bit more than the field. So, I like the Orioles.
Yeah, that was one that stood out to me when I was looking at the board today. I kind of said, hey, I want to get to some Orioles. You mentioned another stack that I really like in the Cardinals. I'll definitely have some of them. Just looking at my power index, a summary of my home run rankings, I have the Orioles third. So I have it. It's actually funny. It's all the teams you named, I think. It's the Blue Jays first, the Astros, the Orioles, and then the Cardinals. That's my top four in terms of the team home run upside and just where the power looks like it is. So definitely, I'll be on the Orioles today, and I'll be on all three of those other teams as well. Out of those other ones, which one's your favorite? Is it the Cards? Is that one that you're really looking to push into?
Yeah, I mean, Reds, I try to go anti the field whenever I can. I don't feel like it's necessary today. Red Sox look so gosh dang good against Heasley and that run total, that park. So I think today, Adam touched on it. It's so easy to be there and still be different and still not a 25-30% team. I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like maybe the apartment next door is getting renovated. Either that FBI is making a sting operation. I don't know, but it's driving me nuts.
So I can't hear it. I don't know. I don't know if Chad can, but yeah, it's not something that's coming through on my end. So
it sounds like somebody sawing like a circle on the floor, like they're just going to steal my fridge or something. But yeah, the Red Sox look pretty good. I'm just a sucker for the Cardinals, man. I don't know the last slate where my eyes just didn't light up thinking about Cardinals upside. And then that Padres lineup came out a little bit different than I expected. We got Will Myers leading off against his old pal Mad Bum. Juan Soto, who's unbelievably cheap on FanDuel, Machado, Drury. I love that 1 through 4 there. It does kind of fall off a cliff, but I do like the extra value added to the top of the lineup for the Padres. So they've become a late addition to probably one of my top 6 owned teams.
Okay. So, and that's going to be an important spot. I mean, we're going to get to massive amounts of Juan Soto just naturally through optimizers and everything. I don't think there's any way to avoid him at the FanDuel price at 2,700. It's just too big a discount. I do not care that he's struggling this year. I'll take what I get of him. And then, yeah, with Myers up top, I guess it's a little bit more interesting. Not that much ownership going to the bottom and the top of the lineup, considering him, but he might pick up a little bit more on FanDuel as we go. Middle of the lineup, though, getting some attention around Soto, Brandon Drury, Manny Machado, the guys that I really want to go to in that lineup. I know it's flat with Mad Bum on the hill. Like there's definite upside, 16% strikeout rate, a 4.89 xFIP, a 3.2% home run rate, plenty of reasons to throw bats at him, but it's not one of my favorite lineups to go to just because the popular hitters are the guys that I want. I'll have a lot of Soto, but like how much are you getting to the Padres relative to where the field's going to be as a full stack?
Before this line came out, I was at 8%. I can't imagine it goes that far backwards. But it would be pretty intense on 1 through 4 now. I think Will Myers is the guy that's getting the biggest bump for me in my projection because I didn't have him batting leadoff this morning. So I think it's going to be pretty much the same, just an extra bump on Will Myers. And that also might make Will Myers fall into more one-offs elsewhere. Just a pretty lucrative opportunity for him there.
Yep. And I am working in the background here on getting some of these Josh Bell lineups out of my life because he is not going to be in there today. So if you were crunching lineups like I was during the show, that's going to be an important change to make in that lineup. We had a few other guys, but nothing as crucial. No Mitch Haniger in the Seattle lineup. That was the other one that jumped out to me. I had to jump in here and take some shares out. I think I'm good with everybody else. So I got to run a few additional lineups. We'll deal with the other stuff later on. Who else jumps out as a stack? You mentioned the Red Sox, and I want to swing back to that one because we didn't really talk them through, individually or anything. Let me just sort this and get back over to where the hell the Red Sox are against Kansas City. Yeah, because it's a pincushion of a pitcher with John Heasley on the other side. 15.4% strikeout rate, 10.5% walk rate, a 44.3% hard hit, 4.58% home run rate. They're getting some attention, but arguably with some of these spots, they're not getting enough. And one of the ones that jumps out to me is Tristan Casas, batting 6th, 12.2% at the dead minimum on DK is probably not enough ownership for that kid. And then 2,400 on FanDuel, drawing only 6% ownership. That's a spot I want to focus on in the Red Sox lineup, but I like this lineup pretty much top to bottom.
Yeah, Casas is actually one of my highest owned players just because of the price and the talent there. And then this is just a glorious spot. John Heasley is very not good, no disrespect. And then ranking-wise, the Royals bullpen is very not good. So you're getting quality game of opportunity hitting versus pitching in a positive park out there in Fenway. So it's a massive, massive spot. And I obviously the field is not unaware that Boston's really good in a really good spot at 12%. But I'll be honest, when I opened the slate, I thought they would be closer to like 18%. Like I thought this was going to be the cores of today, but it's not. So I'm there on them, and I don't feel like I'm actually at 14% versus the field's 12%. So actually, no, I'm at 12% right now. So I'm happy to be there, and it's just a huge upside spot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's and like we talked about at the beginning of the show, we're just going to be spreading pitching, I think, so much, and we've got such a variety of good hitting spots, or at least ones that project very similarly and look decent, that I don't think we worry all that much about ownership. And then within this very lineup, there are spots like the Casas one that just offset everything that we want to do. Do you like getting down to like an Enrique Hernandez batting eighth, the Plawecki, Christian Arroyo part of this lineup, or are you kind of cutting it at the Casas spot?
I do have some Arroyo. Plawecki has fallen into some of my DraftKings builds, none on FanDuel, obviously, but a 2K bare bones min catcher, why not? And then Kike Hernandez, I don't see him in my builds. I have 2 shares of Kike, so I guess I don't like it, but I am not avoiding it.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. They're just guys who kind of come along for the ride with a lot of what they do. Maybe a little correlated scoring, maybe a little bit of a offset to the ownership there, but not guys who are really going to be drawing much of our focus. What about the team on the other side of this one? Because I think they're at least frisky and maybe interesting with the Royals, MJ Melendez, Bobby Witt, Sal Perez, Pasquantino, Mike Massey in the lineup. Hunter Dozier dropped in there as a late addition to the lineup and not drawing all that much attention. Any love for them against a soft pitcher like Waka?
Yeah, I had a rebuild after all that. My Drew Waters exposure got nerfed a little bit. Where am I on Royals? On Royals, I'm at 4%, so a little bit. It's more of one of those. You grab a team that I think we can agree is a little bit scrappy. Melendez, Witt, Salvi, Pasquantino. You're taking him from Coffin, put him in Fenway, a hittable pitcher like Waka, who's overperforming his expected ERA pretty greatly. So there's an opportunity there to get some swings that are in a better place than you normally would. And you don't really expect a lot of people to put 5K plus into, a Royals stack on a Friday night. So I like him. It's pretty concentrated on 1 through 4 for me, but certainly think there's an opportunity here worth gravitating toward.
Yeah, it's a spot, and that's kind of exactly how I'm getting it. Like, they're in the mix. They're a spot that it wouldn't totally shock me if they blew up and had a decent game here and got themselves to be totally relevant. But it's not one that I'm saying like, hey, I want to put a massive amount of chips on. What about Toronto? I know it was a topic of conversation on the last show. They're going up against Jordan Lyles, another fairly soft pitcher, fairly gettable guy, low strikeout rate, plenty of excellent Toronto bats available there. Is it a spot that you're going for Blue Jays here?
Yeah, always. Especially when they're, not the top owned stack. We get them at 7% ownership, 6% chance of being the top stack over there on DraftKings. That's certainly more than fair. Just a really, really powerful, talented lineup through and through. A guy like Lyles, 18% K rate overall, 17% to righties. That gets me real excited for a guy like Matt Chapman when we start neutralizing that 30% K rate, and even Teoscar Hernandez to an extent. So I do think this is one of the more through and through balanced stacks that we could really get to. Just out of curiosity, looking at Jordan Lyles this year, he has 21 homers allowed. If he would have pitched every game in Toronto, I always love looking these up, right? Because of that left field pushback. He would have allowed 28. So he would have 7 more homers allowed if he pitched every game in Rogers Center versus Camden. So maybe we can that 0.81 homer per 9 to righties he has so far this year, maybe that can be closer to the 2 from last year against a very powerful Blue Jays team.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And we're talking about a guy who's already sitting with a 3.05. Actually, that's a little bit better than I thought it would be. 3.05% home run rate. But last year is 4.94%. That's more indicative of like the guy that you're talking about, where we would add these additional home runs if he was pitching in this ballpark. Kevin Biggio, definitely interesting with multi-position eligibility. He's only 2,100 on FanDuel as well, second and third base. You get a little bit of ownership around Chapman, but I love that call too. He's a guy I have been making sure to call out just all season long. Still a masher of the baseball, 24 home runs, 207 ISO. I can always get to Matt Chapman there. Who else is on the board? We talked about both sides of this one. You getting any love for our New York Yankees? I know we talked about potentially Hauser holding them down. Are you getting any shares of the Yanks? We know there's upside. We know Giancarlo Stanton is cheap. I almost call him Mike. I call him Mike when I yell at him from the stands. When I'm encouraging him, because I feel like he needs that. I feel like he needs a little motivation. Like, you got to earn that, Giancarlo.
I don't know. Giancarlo feels more personal. It's like
because that's his actual name.
Yeah, first name. Yeah, a little bit more, right? This Yankees lineup is still not the mega power lineup with Rizzo and Carpenter, but it's getting a little bit better. Judge, Stanton, Glaber, Donaldson, really stops after the 3 guy for me in terms of confidence. Donaldson, he'll probably bat flip a line out. And then the bottom half of this lineup is atrocious. So stack wise, it's Aaron Judge and the Sunshine Band. But on FanDuel, getting Stanton at 2,700, just like an insane spot. And was the Stanton get hit in the face here against Mike Fiers? Was that in Milwaukee? I feel like it might have been. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I brought that up. The fact you said Mike Stanton. I remember it. I feel like it might have been
an old call out.
But I like Stanton on FanDuel at 2,700. That him and Juan Soto, something happened tonight that their prices came in so cheap to have that type of opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, FanDuel's just messing with us at the end of the season with some of these prices, maybe experimenting for next year with like hitters will be free and you just pay for pitchers, or like, who knows? I really am not sure what's going on with them, but I'll be happy to take advantage of it and get to some of those guys. I am actually getting more Yankee stacks than I expected to be, so I'm a little concerned with what's in them because, like you said, that back end, Oswaldo Cabrera, take or leave at 5th, but IKF, Marwin, Trevino, and Aaron Hicks, that is brutal with how those players have been performing this year. I mean, Trevino's had himself a nice little year for an unexpected, unheralded catcher, but the rest of those guys, so difficult spot. What about the Brewers? Any love for them? There's some at least interesting bats. Top 4 project fairly well for me against Montas. And then you get Colton Wong, Andrew McCutchen, Jace Peterson, 3 guys that I think are interesting enough hitters for no cost and no ownership. But we talked about Montas as a pitcher we kind of like. Any love for the Brewers?
Stack wise, not really. Be more in the one-off realm here. I think Montas bleeds red, and this year we've seen a 1.5 homer per 9 to lefties, and there are some powerful lefties. I think Rowdy Tellez would probably be leading the charge here for me. And like I said, a rest day for the Yankees. I don't know how I feel about Aroldis Chapman being reactivated, but bullpen's starting to look a little bit better. We're seeing them trust guys like Loaizica and, Clay Holmes is back, all that stuff. So may not be a quality 9 innings if they do get to Montas anyway.
Yeah, that's the concern. You get into those just premium arms that they get in the bullpen if they do yank Montas early, so you don't get any real upside out of them on the back end. Let's see if chat's got any questions, anything they want to shout out. Yankees are an awful idea, says Sean V. Andrews has been a monster despite Terry's hate. Again, I don't hate him. He's just not a very good baseball player over time. Hand pop out of the wall and grab Gundacker. No, it's going to come from the ceiling, from the
it's driving me nuts, man. I don't know what they're doing, but it sounds like they're trying to saw a hole through like a bank ceiling or something, man. It sounds literally like a handsaw.
Do you live in the kind of place where like you're allowed to just, make home improvements if you want to? Like I live in a rented apartment. If I started sawing into the wall, I think my landlord would be kind of upset.
You're not allowed to, but I've definitely got a whole NASA contraption over here. I'm like, you can have my deposit. I don't care. So I don't think that to me, it sounds more like, I don't know, neighbors had animals they weren't supposed to have. So it could just be they're gutting the place and whatever. It's just making a lot of noise. And
okay. All right. I got it. I'm just trying to make some adjustments here. Yeah, I've never gotten a security deposit back in my entire life.
I don't even ask for them. I don't, whatever.
Right. It's just kind of is. All right. Let's see. Who else have we not talked about in terms of a stack that is somebody that you like that you're looking to get to? Sean V. Sean V says you can buy a house after that last NFL win. Depends.
Oh yeah. I didn't even talk to you. Yo, you're a beast, man. All you guys are going off lately. I needed to be my.
Oh yeah, that's another one I wanted to call out. Congrats to our pal Neil Orfield who chopped the FanDuel slate last night. So little 91K win for our pal. So right back, congrats at you, Neil. But yeah, Sean, that depends on what part of the country I want to live in. I'm approximately like 1.5 miles from Manhattan, in that direction as the crow flies on the Jersey side of the river, and not around here, unfortunately. I wish that was the case. As I was asking again, who is another stack that we haven't really brought up that you're getting a little bit of, or just some hitters, like some key individual hitters that you want to mention?
I mean, I could look at the top of the bomb detector here, get a couple names out there. Actually, where are we at on likes? 184, below 200. That's unacceptable. Come on, chat.
Below 200. That's not going to get us live from Texas.
Bro, get that ISO up and like get that batting average up. Break the Mendoza line. Gosh darn it. Top of the bomb detector, Joey Meneses from the Nats is at the top for me. J Ram, Brandon Drury, Rafi Devers, Danny Jansen, Jordan Alvarez, Mike Trout, Ketel Marte. I think so. So the D-backs are kind of that feeling of my bad knee stack. I think Blake Snell is obviously a good pitcher, but that 1.34 whip with Austin Nola behind the dish, who cannot throw out base runners, this D-backs team is too stupid to know they suck, right? Like last night, they did damage, and I think 1 through 5 against lefties, I'm in. A lot of high ISOs, a lot of hit for average, low strikeout rate. So low strikeout rate, maybe we tap into Snell's 10+% walk rate a little bit more. We tap into that stolen base potential, which is a little bit more lucrative on PrizePicks and FanDuel. It's a really cheap team to get to, and maybe that's one of the stacks you can shuffle with the higher own Red Sox stacks or something like that. So D-backs are kind of sneaky to me. And then there was another team I was kind of.
That's actually a good call. They were a team that kind of like stood out to me as I was looking through, and they kind of have the last few days. And I'm getting to them in spots, but like they don't come up enough naturally for me. So I'm going to give them a little nudge here. But I do think they're interesting. I actually had a shot last night until they pinch hit Varsho in the 9th, on kind of unnecessarily, because I think they were winning the game, or the 8th rather. But could have if we had gotten like a home run out of whoever the kid was that they pinch hit for, would have been nice for me. But I'm going to try and grab a little bit more of them, because I do agree with you there. Anybody else, like any shares of like the Dodgers against Webb or any of those like wacky teams coming up for you? Wacky team, one of the best teams,
right?
What a weird decision.
Dodgers, no, and the Dodgers again. So I know we got their starting lineup, but now they're in. Are we playing 9 innings lineups territory, because they are ridiculously locked in? So we might start seeing Dave Roberts' platoon, at halftime essentially. I think the other team I was interested in, and this is a team we don't have to worry about not fighting for wins, is the Braves. They're 1 game back in the division. And they got Ozzie Albies back in the mix. He's in the bottom of the lineup, but he's still good. And as far as a stack ownership goes, we're getting 2% ownership over on DraftKings, 4% chance of being a top stack. Still some positive leverage. It's still a really talented team that needs to win games. And this is through and through. There's really not one guy in today's lineup I wouldn't play. I'm less excited to play like guys like Grossman, but still great average, hit for average against the lefty. So I think the Braves are probably that other team. They're not as cheap as the D-backs, but they make a lot of sense in terms of playing to win and just really being really talented.
Yeah, and maybe not drawing the attention that the Braves would normally draw, particularly from me for one, because like I said, there is that factor where Ranger Suarez potentially holds down a little bit of the power upside that we normally want to chase with that team. But that could be a very good reason to consider them with nobody else going there, and a pitcher like, it's not like we're talking about one of the best pitchers in baseball history with Ranger Suarez. It's just he happens to sometimes hold teams down. So might be a good call out there, and one that I might take a quick look at with 5 minutes to go here. Anybody else? And the Albies thing is definitely key. Definitely a guy you want to pay attention to drop back into the bottom of that lineup. Just all-star caliber hitter, 30-30 type of talent. So somebody I would want to get to there as well. Who else? What else have we not touched on as I'm dropping these last lineups in? And then I'll be able to ask you a better question as soon as I click upload.
Oh, you're good. I guess we didn't talk about Jack Flaherty. I ultimately decided not to play him. But he has 7K. If he's the guy that can find the strikeout percentage from last year, a less than stellar Reds team, maybe there's a slate coming up if it's not today to get to him. But I've decided not to play him tonight, but I did have to think about it.
Okay. Looks like through happenstance, I didn't get to him either. Just looking, I didn't really get that much of him in the lineup builds that I did, and he dropped just out of the sort. There's one lineup that's like, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I kind of like that lineup. It's in it's a 4-2 Astros Red Sox stack with Jack Flaherty pitching, Marcus Semien as a one-off, and Shohei Ohtani as a one-off. That's kind of an interesting little lineup there. I might grab that and try and drop it in here real quick. Let's see if my home run model agrees with the bomb detector as far as who's up at the top of the board here today. I mentioned when I looked at it before, it was the 4 teams that you mentioned as being some of your favorite stacks. I'm looking at Vladdy Guerrero, Jordan Alvarez, Rafi Devers, some really obvious star caliber names up here. Teoscar Hernandez. Ramirez. Guy we didn't touch on, the Guardians, Jose Ramirez, sitting there up in the top 10 in my bomb detector here. So were you getting any Guardians? Were they on the board at all for you? We talked about their pitcher with Tristan McKenzie.
Stack wise, no. Bailey Ober is one of those. First of all, he's very tall, and I never know. Not that matters, but I just always, if you never watched Bailey Ober pitch, man, that dude is a lanky, tall glass of water. I don't have any onslaught stacks, but J Ram's number 2 in my bomb detector. The thing with J Ram, he's actually like more expensive than like Rafi Devers, right? And Devers is up there as well, a little bit cheaper, and he fills out the stack that I'm more inclined to get to. So maybe he's more of like an elite one-off or an elite single entry. But no onslaughts. But I do have J Ram. He's number 2 in my bomb detector, and then Devers is number 4. So even that's kind of splitting hairs.
Yeah, and they're both sitting right there. Any thoughts to maybe they're going to get into that bullpen a little bit early, that Twins bullpen? This is Ober's first start back from the injured list, and he's been on the injured list for quite a while, but he is a talented young pitcher. Guy I was using a little bit early in the season and have on some season-long teams.
So I think what I saw was he seemed relatively stretched out in the minors for Twins' sake. He went 4.2 innings 7 innings in his last start. It's not indicative of how long he'll go today, but I shouldn't be worried about like a 3-inning pitch leash other than him getting hit up or something like that. And so I'm not concerned about that, but I never considered playing him, so I didn't dive too deep into that.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't something that I had dove into either, but I was just thinking maybe in terms of like an underrated stack there, we could get to some Guardians there. Looks like about 2 minutes before lock. All my lineups are uploaded. Hopefully you guys are in the process of getting yours. You good on lineups, Gun? Everything uploaded and in?
Yeah, I was pretty well set before lock, and then Mitch Haniger got not scratched, but Mitch Haniger wasn't in lineup, and neither was Josh Bell, so I had to redo everything. But I'm good now.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's what I just went through. If either of those guys are in there, it's only 1 or 2 spots. Just made sure I got that lineup that I just was talking about with the one Flaherty share is in the tournament now. So don't play that one. Otherwise, you're going to dupe me at the top of the standings, guys. Maliker's asking Carroll. I assume Corbin Carroll. If you're going to any Arizona stacks, I like them. If you're going Arizona bats.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Him, Alcantara, Dalton Varsho. I know the platoon might put you off at the bottom of that lineup, but especially Carroll, he's one of the top prospects in baseball. Really affordable. He's actually more expensive than Soto's and Stanton. So when you start thinking logically, you might let the robot do the talking, but I wouldn't leave him out. Specifically.
Yeah, that is just completely stupid and idiotic as far as the pricing goes. But hey, that's what it is. I left a piece of business on the board, guys. So here at the end of the show, you're welcome for just blasting content the entire time. But now you got to listen up as you're clicking upload frantically on those last lineups. If you want 3 free days of NFL content from Stokastic, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a slate this weekend for the NFL, and then there's a Monday night slate with some single game stuff. So those might be 2 important days to grab this for. If you are a new Stokastic Plus Platinum or NFL user, you want to give it a shot for free for a test run before you buy it. And really, guys, it's proven. There's no need to test it. But if you want to test it, check it out. 100% free. You go over to Stokastic, click the link in the description below. Fantasy Cruncher is not included here. It's an add-on. It's always a paid add-on. It's not included with the trial offer. So after the trial 3 days, you can add that to your subscription here. It doesn't look like there's a promo code on this, but it includes access to all the premium content, all the tools for NFL DFS at stokastic.com. New tools like the lineup generator, the player compare tool, player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, boom bust, etc., etc., etc. All the content. It's excellent. Check that out for 3 days for free. We've got upcoming shows. Nothing today, but tomorrow, 11 a.m., college football live before lock. 1 p.m. NFL strategy show. 3 p.m. MMA live before lock, and then 4 p.m. not live, unfortunately, from the A&M tailgate. It'll be me and Gundacker back here for MLB live before lock, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Gun, tell them where they can find you, buddy. Great show.
Twitter, YouTube /Gundacker. Hey, happy birthday, Mama Gun.
Happy birthday to Mama Gun, indeed. If she's going to let him, he's going to be here for the show tomorrow, but we're going to give Gun if he needs to tap out and call in a sub because it's Mama Gun's birthday party tomorrow. So with that, gamers, good luck, everybody. I still Emax tag there with that, gamers. That's his. Because I was just thinking like maybe Emax subs in as I was talking that through. So stealing Emax tag. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Good luck tonight.